think.
And there's another report that's just come over that says the White House was threatened with a terrorist attack, a source says. We have another report from an eyewitness at the Pentagon. Says it was a huge fireball, a huge orange fireball, and another witness said that it might have been a helicopter that exploded. We've had an AP reporter who says it appears to him to have been a large airliner of some sort, and we do have reports that, of course, the FBI is investigating reports that it could have been hijacked aircraft that crashed.
As a matter of fact, the FAA has just now halted all air traffic throughout the United States. So as of right now, there are no commercial airliners in the air.
I doubt that that has ever happened before in this country.
I don't think so.
So again, we do have a bulletin that I see here that says a Palestinian DFLP official denies any kind of responsibility for the World Trade Center crash. You know, again, everybody is trying to find out exactly what it is that has happened here. We simply do not know who is responsible. If we might, could we see the video again that showed us the second airliner crashing into the southern of the buildings?
Now, as you will see in a couple of moments here, a plane will come into the picture from the upper right-hand corner of your screen, if you're watching at home. Coming down here in just a few seconds as our camera backs up from Chopper 4. There you see the plane coming into the picture. It will dip down below the first building. We don't see it for a couple of seconds, and then it comes back out and slams into the other tower at the World Trade Center.
Again, this has all happened within the past hour and 5 minutes or so. We are witnessing things that we've never seen anything like it before. Obviously, there was a terrorist attack back in 1993, about 8 years ago, on the Twin Towers. At that point, 6 people were killed, 1,000 people were injured. Major security measures were put into effect after that, making sure that people did not get into that building unless they had the proper clearance. But obviously, the buildings today were vulnerable to air. We do not know anything about the people who were working inside those buildings. Obviously, it's a full work day in New York City, a Tuesday in September, and it's also primary day. So people were going to work as usual. Now, it happened a few minutes before 9 in one of the buildings.
Yes.
Well, one would assume that maybe some of those offices weren't quite open yet.
I would think so. A lot of people had not arrived to work. We certainly hope that is the case. As you said, the first explosion, the first plane slamming into the first building, a plane that was hijacked from Boston, happened about 8:50, somewhere between 8:50 and 9 o'clock this morning. And it was 18 minutes later, we saw right here on our live picture from Chopper 4, the second plane, which witnesses have described as a full commercial airliner, slamming into the second tower. And you saw the dramatic explosion. And of course, just a couple of minutes ago, witnesses say that another commercial airliner has slammed into the Pentagon down in Arlington, Virginia. The U.S. Capitol and the White House have both been evacuated, and we understand that the White House had received a threat of a terrorist attack.
Now we're looking back at the Pentagon. Again, you can see the smoke billowing from there. We have no other information at this point about casualties or injuries or exactly what it was that smashed into the Pentagon earlier today. That happened, what, 25 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago? Something of that sort.
One of the other pictures we actually saw a member of the military in full fatigue.
Outside the White House.
Outside the White House, you know, fully loaded and ready to go for anything.
We expect that Mayor Giuliani is going to be speaking shortly. As you can imagine, I'm sure there is a scene of much confusion now at downtown in Lower Manhattan, outside the World Trade Center towers. We have just been told that the Pentagon is being evacuated at this point. And we're looking back at the World Trade Center towers here. The smoke continues to billow. The fire is clearly not under control yet.
Jane, we have another witness on the telephone of the second plane slamming into the second tower. His name is Robert Thomas from Brooklyn Heights. Can you hear me, Robert?
Yes, I can.
Can you tell us exactly what you saw?
I was on the roof deck of my building watching the fire from the first explosion, and I was on the phone with my parents in Florida, and I watched the second plane coming in from Staten Island-ish area, and I was telling my mom on the phone, that plane is too low. I can't believe it's that close to the building after the first one hit. And it was gray on the top plane. It was about the size of one of the shuttles, maybe coming from D.C. area. It was not a small plane. It was like a 737 or something. And whatever airline is gray on the top. And I saw it hit the building. I have a very good friend who works at Windows in the World, the pastry chef, Heather Ho, and I hope to God she's okay today.
Have you attempted to reach her?
I tried to call her at home. The work number is busy, of course. And I tried to call her at home and got her message.
Okay. Again, we've been talking about how the FBI is reporting, or is investigating reports that at least one aircraft, if not two, were hijacked earlier today. So from your vantage point, what you could see appeared to be the size of perhaps a shuttle aircraft.
Right. It was not a small plane. It was a big plane.
Okay.
I know people have been saying a small commuter, but it wasn't small. It was definitely it definitely held a good group of people.
Mm-hmm. Could you see anybody through the windows of the cockpit of that aircraft?
No,
or were you too far away?
It wasn't that close, but I could clearly see the plane coming in. I could clearly see it aiming straight for the building. It was in a long, swooping motion. It wasn't a jerky flight. It went straight into it.
Oh, my.
And it was it was so low, it was unbelievable to watch. I tell you what, I'm scared right now.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments, and we thank you very much for giving us this information, because, of course, we are trying to find out exactly what happened on this Tuesday morning.
Jane, we're learning the State Department has also been evacuated. The Associated Press has learned that the White House was evacuated after the Secret Service did receive a credible threat of a terrorist act against the White House.
Does it say what time that threat came in?
No, it does not. So we don't know if it was before the planes crashed into the World Trade Center or after.
What we're seeing now is there's information that the aircraft at the Pentagon crashed in a helicopter landing pad near the Pentagon. Again, the West Wing of the White House evacuated amid threats of terrorism.
As well as the U.S. Capitol and the State Department now.
Exactly. One of the planes, we're also being told that one of the planes that crashed into the World Trade Center had been hijacked after takeoff from Boston, as you've just said, citing a transmission from that airplane. Let's go and review for you exactly what has happened as a result of all of this. All airplane traffic across this country
yes,
has been grounded. There are no airplanes leaving or land. I would assume they can land, those that are up in the air.
Right.
But there are no aircraft that are going to be leaving any of the airports around the country for at least the time being. We do not know how long. It is virtually impossible to get up into this city right now. The bridges, the subways, the tunnels, everything is shut down. There are major traffic jams from people who were trying to leave or trying to get in. Obviously, it is a good day to stay put wherever you are. Obviously, the airports here are all closed.
Right.
The stock exchange has been closed.
Closed down. Subways, the 1, 2, 3, and 9, all train service in and out of the city is now shut down. And, not that in the big picture, this is really not that important at this moment, but you have to wonder if maybe the primary election will be possibly be suspended because of this.
Well, people can't get their polling places.
You're absolutely right.
And I'm sure that's something that they will sort out later.
Absolutely.
Because I'm sure not a single one of these candidates is worrying about that at this moment.
No.
We heard the president call this a terrorist attack. That was before the explosion at the Pentagon. So the president is being fully briefed. He said he had talked to the governor. Now, the governor has an office in the World Trade Center. He was in Manhattan, but we do not know where he is. President Bush has said he has talked to the governor, so we assume that he is safe at this point. We are waiting for the mayor to give us some kind of information about casualties or injuries this morning.
Okay, we have another reporter out on the street, Walter Perez. Can you hear us, Walter?
Here we are about 2 blocks away from... Okay, 2 blocks away from where the whole thing happened, and this entire area has been cordoned off, and people that have been working in nearby buildings have been told to evacuate. That's what this mass exodus is to my left-hand side. To my right, we have two witnesses, and as we speak with you two, we're going to pan up and show a shot of what we see from this vantage point. First, Marna Ringel. And Marna, you work across the street. Tell me exactly what you saw on the street, and as you looked up, what you saw, because you said you saw the second one. Am I correct?
No, I didn't see the second one. I actually was coming out of the building, and there was maybe about 30 or 40 people at the bottom of One World Financial covered in blood. I did not expect that at all, and I work for Lehman in One right here, and a gentleman that I work with was on the telephone. He said, "What was that?" I said, he thought it was thunder. I looked over, screamed, "It's a bomb," because I saw a piece of the building flow down, and I think I scared my entire floor because I can scream pretty loud, and it was pretty bad.
Now, you mentioned that you saw people on the road outside of the building. Explain that scene.
I saw there's maybe about 30 or 40 people covered with bandages and blood. It looks like a lot of them were either on the floor of one of the exchanges. There's actually, oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
We're not sure exactly what happened, but it was another explosion on the far side of one of the buildings from where we're standing. The reverberation and another explosion on the right-hand side. Another building has gone up on the right-hand side of the road. People are now running down the street. We're not sure if that was another explosion or if that was advanced debris. Joining me also is Jim Plant. Jim, you're also a witness of what happened. Tell me exactly what you saw from your vantage point across the street.
I was just across Liberty and West here, and I saw the second plane hit the Tower 2. Looked like a 737. It hit a glancing blow, didn't hit it direct. I don't know where the rest of the plane went, but it went in, fireball came out, and it hit lower than the first plane, which hit the upper floors.
Jim, thank you very much. At this point, as you can tell, there's absolute pandemonium in this area because of what had just happened. Exactly what, I can't confirm, but on the far side of the building, there seemed to be another explosion, and also on the right-hand side, there was also another explosion. We're not sure if that was extra reverberation from what happened at the World Trade Center, or if that was an added explosion. At this point, there's a lot of smoke, massive plumes of smoke falling from the building across the street. People that were running down the street or walking are now running away. We don't have any information as far as what the most recent reverberations were, but from 2 blocks away, you can feel what happened. We'll get more information and pass it along to you.
All right, thank you very much, Walter. Again, 1 or 2 more explosions again around the World Trade Center. We don't know if it was in the same building or adjacent buildings.
Can we re-rack that video that we were looking at as Walter was interviewing those people, because perhaps that will give us some indication of what this was. Obviously, there are buildings nose to nose down there.
Yes.
We have no idea if this was a third explosion or if it might have been something from the debris raining down from one of the World Trade Center towers. It appears to be to the south of those buildings, but take a look at those pictures, and that is quite an incredible sight.
Again, this all started this morning at about 10 minutes to 9 o'clock. We understand that a commercial airliner, maybe a small commercial airliner, was apparently hijacked leaving the airport in Boston, Logan Airport in Boston, and slammed into one of the towers. About 18 minutes later, a second commercial airliner, which witnesses tell us was much bigger, slammed into the second tower. Soon after that, we heard from President Bush that said this was an apparent terrorist attack. Not long after he talked, a plane crashed very close to the Pentagon. From what we understand, down in the nation's capital, the White House, the U.S. Capitol, and the State Department have all been evacuated, and that the Secret Service did receive a very real threat that the White House would also suffer the same fate as the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, which has not happened yet, and we hope it doesn't. And of course, all commercial traffic around the United States has been shut down.
Air traffic,
Yes.
commercial air traffic.
All commercial air traffic.
Joining us now is Jim Rosenfield, who's been up in the newsroom. Do you have anything you can add to all of
Well,
this?
just, in getting here to Rockefeller Center this morning to share with you, because you've been here in the studio, just the scenes on the street, people on their cell phones trying to find out what's going on, people calling loved ones trying to find out if they're okay. As you walk into this building, a lot of people out on the street not being permitted to go up and down through most of the elevators for security reasons. Obviously, as we think about the landmarks in Manhattan, people are taking very serious security precautions just for that reason. A lot of emotions I should share with you up in the newsroom, too, as we hear these just gut-wrenching eyewitness accounts of what these people must be going through, especially in the Twin Towers right now. Just amazing.
We have just been told that this, what we thought was another explosion, was indeed, according to the Associated Press, another building that has either been attacked or exploded. So it appears to be separate from the two that we have already witnessed this morning. And if you take a look at this scene right now, the smoke that is billowing over Lower Manhattan is truly a frightening sight to see. Again, the part that I think concerns all of us is that we have no knowledge of what happened to the people who might have been inside any of those buildings. It's a normal workday, and although the first explosion came early, it might have meant some people weren't there yet, but I guarantee you that there are a lot of people who were already in those buildings.
Sure, in the Twin Trade Towers, a lot of state workers in those buildings who get there well before 9 o'clock. And as you come down some of the major arteries in Manhattan, you can just see this smoke from miles away, a very eerie sight as I was coming towards Midtown. You look up, and there's the smoke coming out of the World Trade Center.
How did you come to work today?
I actually walked most of the way because traffic is, as you would imagine, a complete mess. Emergency vehicles trying to make their way all down to downtown to Lower Manhattan. So it's difficult for anybody who's trying to get around. Bridges and tunnels, as you've been mentioning, are closed. So getting on and off the island isn't going to happen right now.
Okay, Jim, right now we have a terrorism expert on the telephone, Harvey Kushner. Harvey, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Harvey, this obviously has all the earmarks of terrorism.
Yes, unfortunately it does. And, you know, I've been in this business almost 40 years. And quite frankly, I couldn't have written a scenario like this. If I would have come forward with something like a possibility like this, they would have laughed. I mean, this has all of the worst-case scenarios put together into one. This is monumental. This will be something that, you know, you get Gary Condit in the news, you have O.J. This is something that we're going to be looking at for the next couple of years, unfortunately, and not just from a media perspective, but from the people who've witnessed this. I mean, when you think of the psychological trauma this is going to cause to New Yorkers and to Americans, it's monumental. It's off the map.
As you see the scope of this and the methodical way in which it appears to have been planned and happened, and again, we don't know what truly occurred, but there's talk of aircraft being hijacked,
Right.
of second explosions, of et cetera, What, if there are signals you can read in that as an expert on all of this, what can you tell us about that?
Well, it shows that, you know, in the last couple of years, and I just got off of the embassy bombing trial. I was involved in that, and I've seen a picture painted of Osama bin Laden, not to say that he's involved in this necessarily, but of his network and his ability to try to do damage to the United States. And over the last couple of years, a lot of terrorism experts worldwide have been talking about the day of the freelancer, for those not familiar with the term, individuals who do things by themselves. Obviously, this type of event which occurred today is something that costs a lot of money, a lot of planning, such as what happened in the embassy bombing trial, had to blow up 2 embassies. And obviously, they had the will and the desire, many people, to be able to pull something like this off. I mean, think about hijacking a plane, the difficulties involved in that, but yet to have it flown into a building is just monumental in terms of timing, in terms of the ability of the number of people on that plane. I mean, if I had to surmise, I would think it wasn't just one individual. There had to be groups of individuals to be able to control something like that, to pull something like this off. And if the reports are true that we're having a coordinated attack at other American targets, such as the Pentagon or the White House or other buildings, this indicates that we're facing a new era. We're back to the old state sponsorship, large groups being involved in having the wherewithal and intelligence and the ability to pull something like this off. I mean, this is very, very serious. You know, I've been involved throughout the years in these various different exercises that we played, where we would talk about an event such as this, such as a biological attack or some other type of thing occurring. But this type of scenario never really was painted, because the type of planning to go into something like this was just thought to be not as possible as the launching of a chemical or a biological, even a small nuclear weapon. I mean, this is just something that, you know, brings goosebumps to me. And I've seen everything, and I've been through everything. And this one tops it all in terms of the temerity, in terms of the planning, in terms of what the aftermath is going to be, the shock to the American psyche, to the American public. I mean, think about this. we try to calm people down by telling them, you know, the chances of you being involved in a terrorist act is very, very small. What do we tell people now when they walk around New York City and look up and see the trade towers on fire? We see other buildings exploding. We see people crying in the streets. I mean, this is a horrific event, and it's a very, very sad day in American history. And
Dr. Kushner, I don't know if you're watching television, but
Yeah.
we are now showing our very first pictures of some of the victims of
right.
of this today, and we can see some horrific, what appears to be burns,
Yes.
some serious injuries. Again, this is video that we have just gotten in.
Yes,
We've
I'm
also
watching it. I can see it.
We've also been told that the second tower that was hit by the second plane, which is One World Trade Center, we understand that that tower has actually collapsed at this point.
Well, I'm looking at this picture
You can't
right
see
now,
it.
and you cannot see the top of the second tower.
That's correct.
So a few moments ago, if you remember, there were just billowing smoke
We
there.
just have to hope that area was completely evacuated.
You know, if I might just interject this, I was involved in a civil litigation against the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey because I was representing with a team of attorneys who represented two clients who were in the B2 level. And the trade towers was warned many years in advance that there's a possibility of having a bomb placed in the bottom of the building. And my report showed that the construction of that building was in such beyond the code that even such a powerful bomb couldn't do the damage. But now looking at these pictures as we speak, I'm choked up looking at it, thinking that this type of risk assessment wasn't there and we didn't have. But how do you guard against something like this? This means that you have to put a perimeter around New York in terms of flight pattern, in terms of having jets ready to shoot down planes that they're going into buildings. I mean, this opens up a new level. This is ratcheted up a new level in the annals of terrorism and what we face here as a country and as a civilization worldwide. I mean, people were looking what was going on in the Middle East and not understanding the nature of the fear that people were going through on both sides. And now to be visited here in the United States, in the capital of the world, the crosswords of the world, with the symbol of American capitalism and American might just in ruins, brings a tear to an eye. I mean, think of the humanity that's lost in this type of thing, but think in terms of what it's going to do to us as a country. I mean, what type of procedures will we have to put into place? What protocols will we have to put into place at our airports, at our borders to protect against this? There'll be a human outcry about security that has never existed before in this country. This is just monumental. This is something that happens and you're in history and you don't realize that the world is going to change after an event such as this. I can't see America going back to where it was in terms of not looking at security, not looking at intelligence gathering, not looking at our ability to protect ourselves. This now is on the front page. It removes everything off. Every other story is gone. This is something that is going to be with us in the decades to come. This
Dr. Kushner, if I might interrupt you, thank you very much. Please, will you stand by, because I want to ask you some more questions, but we need, for those, please stay on the line. The people that are just tuning in, we need to just reiterate and give them a bit more information here, because there have been a couple of recent developments that we need to tell people about.
One of the most startling is the fact that we now only see one tower of the World Trade Center Twin Towers standing. We've gotten word that One World Trade Center has either partially or fully collapsed.
It looks like a partial collapse.
Yeah.
We can still see below the
This is
smoke.
tape,
This is actually tape. Okay, this is actually tape.
However, and this is, you are now witnessing
That's the collapse
That's the
right
collapse.
there.
There it is.
Obviously, that structure weakened by the aircraft that we saw fly into it, over an hour ago now. That was the second tower
That was the
hit.
second one, but it was hit much lower. It was a good 30 stories down, something
Yes.
like that. It was about double the ways down from the first of the world towers.
Which the lower it is,
Center.
obviously, the more vulnerable it is to have a collapse
Absolutely.
like
Now,
that.
I don't know if you've seen this, Jim. This
I
is
have.
All right, we are looking once again earlier.
This is about the point where I, too, tuned in
Yeah.
to News Channel 4.
If you look up in your right-hand side, you will see an aircraft coming into the picture. It'll be there any moment.
Right
There
there.
it is. Now watch this.
I'll actually dip behind the first building. And there it is.
So it goes around behind that building and comes in from the left side, it appears.
It crossed
Sort
over
of
the
through.
Hudson.
Right.
And we have had eyewitnesses who have watched that aircraft. They told us it appeared to be a good size. They compared it to the size of a shuttle, you know, like the Boston or Washington shuttle. And indeed, an aircraft was hijacked in Boston earlier this morning, and the FBI knew that because of some radio transmissions that came to them. So if you think about this theoretically, that may have been the aircraft that then went into that
And
tower.
this isn't only New York that's
No,
under siege
this
right
was
now.
just the first. You know, not long after that, another commercial airliner crashed into the Pentagon or right next to the Pentagon. That building's been evacuated, of course, in the nation's capital. The U.S. Capitol, the State Department, and the White House have all been evacuated. The Secret Service says that they received a very real threat on the White House today, and now we understand that the federal buildings in Newark have been evacuated. I would imagine that is taking place pretty much around the country.
All planes have also been grounded nationwide by the FAA.
A lot of planes are still being diverted into Westchester Airport right now and into Syracuse to keep the planes out of the New York area, obviously.
But once those people who were headed for New York land in one of those airports, they are not going to get into
No.
this city anytime for the next few hours. That is certain, because virtually all traffic coming into the city has been shut off. The bridges, the tunnels are all closed to incoming traffic and to a lot of outbound traffic. I don't know if anybody is getting out of the city at this point.
Did get a report that New Jersey Transit trains are still running under the river, so
Okay. And again, if you can get out of town, that probably would be the wisest advice at this point. Most of Lower Manhattan has been evacuated at this point. And again, the subways are shut down.
look at that, the Lincoln Tunnel at 10:15 in the morning over in Weehawken. Never looks like that this time of
No,
day.
it's completely empty. So again, let us bring you up to date on the fact that we know nothing about the number of casualties, the number of people who've been injured. We've seen photographs of some of the injuries, recent photographs. What we could see appear to be a lot of burns, a lot of lacerations, that sort of thing. We're waiting for the mayor to hold a press conference so he can bring us up to date on the extent of the human damage, so to speak, in all of this.
During this, the period that followed the initial impact on World Trade Center, the FBI did get word, as I understand it, in some sort of coded message perhaps, that there had been a hijacking, at least those are the reports, from the plane involved, one of the two planes involved, we presume, that then made its way directly into the World Trade Center tower.
And of course, we heard President Bush a short time ago call this a terrorist attack. That was before the attack on the Pentagon.
Yes.
Called this a terrorist attack and promised a full-scale investigation to find out who is responsible and to bring them to justice.
Jane, right now we have our Government Affairs reporter, Melissa Russo, on the telephone. Melissa, are you there?
I'm standing outside St. Vincent's Hospital right now, where the scene is absolutely unbelievable. When I arrived here, it was just as the second building explosion happened, and there is what I could describe as chaos in the streets here. There are hundreds of people just in shock, police officers telling people to go home, obviously worried about crowd control. But at the hospital, there has not been much activity in terms of ambulances arriving here, though you might expect there would be. After that last explosion, some ambulances took off and headed down 7th Avenue, which is otherwise closed to traffic. But St. Vincent's is obviously preparing for the possibility of many, many people arriving at their emergency room. They have what looks like a trauma center set up on the street, on the sidewalk of 7th Avenue. Dozens of stretchers, hospital personnel, nurses, with hospital equipment, IVs, out on the street, awaiting the inevitable, people in need of medical care. It's very disturbing.
So, Melissa, what you're telling us is that you have not seen the number of people that you might expect to be there after an explosion of this magnitude.
That's right. I've only been here for about I would say 20 minutes, 25 minutes, but we've seen a couple of ambulances come in. As I said, after that last explosion, I saw some more ambulances race out of here and head down 7th Avenue. But they're obviously preparing for people to be brought here on full alert. They have, as I said, dozens of nurses, nurses' aides out on the street outside the ER on 7th Avenue and 12th Street, stretchers lined up on the street. They're just waiting for people to be coming in, obviously, in need of treatment.
And we're looking right now, Melissa, at some tape that we saw earlier of a woman being taken for medical treatment. It did appear that she had some burns. This
Yes.
is some very...
And we are told that there have been some patients brought here. They probably arrived before I got here. We don't have numbers. We're waiting for a briefing from the hospital. The public relations person from St. Vincent's Hospital did come downstairs and alert the members of the press who are here that as soon as they have an update, they'll bring it to us. But obviously they're overwhelmed with preparing for, an all-hands situation here at the hospital.
Melissa, isn't it true that the Emergency Management Office of the City of New York is located in the World Trade Center?
It's located at 7 World Trade Center, not in one of those two buildings. But of course, it crossed my mind as it crossed yours that this is the place that was set up. The nickname for it was the bunker. It was supposed to be a place that would be shielded from any kind of emergency situation where the mayor and top emergency workers would be able to get together in case of this type of emergency. I have not spoken to the mayor's office yet this morning. I don't know where they're working, but it is in 7 World Trade Center, which is on the north side of VC Street, on the other side. However, it's very close. I mean, right across the street from those towers. I would be almost surprised if they felt safe to be there, although, I don't know what it looks like on the ground at that part of the city right now.
And Melissa, we would assume that what you are seeing in the way of preparedness at St. Vincent's is being repeated at hospitals throughout Manhattan this
I would
morning.
imagine it is. You can only think the worst in this kind of situation. Obviously, hope for the best, but there's certainly, I'm sort of surprised that we're not seeing more ambulances arriving here. We are one of the closer hospitals. I mean, there's New York Downtown Hospital, which is right across the street from City Hall, essentially, in Lower Manhattan. And then we have St. Vincent's, which is here on West 12th Street. You're hearing some sirens behind me. Those are some additional police vehicles heading down 7th Avenue right now.
Melissa?
Yes.
If I could interrupt you for a second. There's an urgent on the wire that something has happened at the State Department. A source says, we don't know yet, we hear it might have been a plane. So there's a possibility now that a plane may have slammed into the State Department in the nation's capital.
That, of course, was evacuated about 45 minutes ago, so hopefully the people who were inside that building have safely left.
There's also information, Jane, on the plane involved, perhaps, in this incident.
It appears it might have been an American Airlines flight that was leaving Boston heading to Los Angeles. We're still making...
one witness
that
described that as a gray plane on top, and that would be American Airlines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, again, let's go outdoors now to
Joe Avalar.
Joe Avalar, because he is on the scene in Lower Manhattan.
What we're standing here is we're in Soho. We're at the corner of Princeton and Worcester Street, and what we're seeing is a lot of what's happening around Manhattan right now, in Lower Manhattan. People were in that area, and they ran as far as they could, as fast as they could. I've got a group of people right here. They were all in offices right close to the World Trade Center. Is that correct, sir?
That's right. Right across the street at 130 Liberty Street.
You heard the explosion, and then what did you do?
We heard the explosion, and we didn't know if it was a earthquake or whatever, and they came on the PA system and said it was a bomb, but then we heard it was a plane. So then we went back upstairs because we thought everything was okay, and then we actually didn't see the second plane, but we saw the explosion hit the other tower, and planes just came flying towards us.
And that's when you ran?
That's when we went to the other side of the building and then waited to hear from the PA system, and they said they were evacuating everybody. And then we just walked all the way up Broadway, and glad we did, because the whole building came down.
Just got out of the area as far as possible. And you've been trying to get through on a cell phone, too. That's been the other thing people are trying to do. Have you gotten out?
No, not at all. Some of us have.
Some of you have gotten, you just managed to get a call out on your cell phone. You're trying to call friends and loved ones?
Just wanted to call my husband and let him know that I was all right.
This is terribly frightening.
Oh my God, it's so upsetting to know that there are all those people that, you know, people come in to work early down here, and it's really horrifying.
You were in work today. You're still in your work clothes. You evacuated along with all your friends here?
Yeah, I was with these guys. We were by the glass and we saw huge pieces of flaming debris fall and the building shook. And then, like he said before, we looped around, we went downstairs, went back up, and then we saw the second plane hit. And then shortly thereafter, we evacuated the building.
You stopped here, you turned. It's what everybody's doing all over the city. They get to a spot, they turn, and they watch. And you almost have to watch.
Yeah, it's surreal. It's like watching a movie.
It's surreal and it's horrifying at the same time. What was that?
Yeah, that the top of the building, when we turned around, we just saw a big pile in the road because it had just fallen down. The whole thing is gone.
And now, of course, number 2 World Trade Center.
That's going to go down too. It looks
gone. And then what we're looking at, spin around, we can see the picture from, this is from where we're standing. We're a good 20 blocks or more from the World Trade Center as we're standing here, and you can see the flames. You see where the hole is, and you can see how the original hole is, which is in the middle of the building. And if you look at it, you can see how the hole has grown. Also the flames below, maybe 10 floors below now, those flames have spread from the original fire. We've seen with binoculars, there have been people out here with binoculars. They've seen people in the buildings. There are still people in that tower. Another ambulance screaming through the area. You were in that area today.
Yes, I was on 299 Broadway when I felt a huge vibration. Thought it was an earthquake, didn't know what it was. People were running across the street, barefooted, some crying on the floor, almost like a stampede was occurring. Everybody just ran. This is where I'm at now. I don't know how many blocks I ran. I almost caught asthma by the time I stopped. Lost my cell phone. I can't even call my family right now.
And that's the big thing, of course, all the New Yorkers are trying to do. Everybody who is in that area, everybody who's in the city today is trying to get through, either in a cell phone or finding a store or something. I did the same thing, trying to call the family, trying to call a loved one, telling them that you're okay. Talk to someone who was in the building, had just gone into one of the World Trade Towers when it all happened. He said from where he was in the lobby, there was a flush of debris and a flush of fire down one of the elevator shafts. He actually was singed, and he was in the lobby. This gentleman here, where are you coming from?
I was in the Century 21 building.
So you were downtown too?
Right. Our office points right at the buildings, and we're so accustomed to seeing people of all walks of life down in the lobby and everything, and every day, and then all of a sudden this happens at 9 in the morning, and fire came out from all sides of the building. And to us, we thought bombs went off or something, but apparently planes went. But it's a sad, very sad time for America.
What we're going to do is we're going to turn back to the tower right here. We're going to send it back to you. And of course, what everybody is thinking is that our prayers are with the people who are in that tower. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Get an update on the State Department real quick.
Apparently it was a car bomb that exploded outside the State Department. That's according to senior U.S. law enforcement officers. The State Department had been evacuated previous, apparently, to this bomb. So one can only assume that the people that were in that building got out safe and sound. We certainly hope that they did. Let's go to Walter Perez. Walter is downtown in Lower Manhattan.
Okay, now as you can imagine, Ralph, it is a pretty frenzied scene out here. Just a few moments ago, I'd say about 20 minutes ago, we're not sure exactly what it was. We have not confirmed it, but something either exploded or fell up the side of the one building that was attacked and caused a massive plume of smoke. As we turn left, you can see there's trucks go by that they are spitting off smoke. These were the emergency trucks and ambulances that were near the building at the time that had happened. At that point, it wasn't so much of a frenzied scenario because people were walking away from the building. This entire region has been cordoned off, and people who are working in nearby buildings were told to leave and evacuate the area for obvious reasons, for safety concerns. When that second plume of smoke came up from the ground area, people started running. People were covered in soot. There were people with blood on their shirts, rips in their shirts, and at this point, looking up at the top of the building, at a rate of about 1 every 5 minutes, you see people that are jumping from the top of the building. It is an absolutely harrowing scene at this point. Police officials told us to evacuate the area that we were in. We moved about 2 blocks further, but the scene is very, very similar. Plumes of smoke all around the area, and people not exactly sure what's going on. All the telephone lines are jammed up as people are trying to communicate, not just police to other people, but folks who saw what happened, trying to communicate loved ones and let them know that they're safe. So it's a very hectic situation at this point. As we gather more information and we're sure we're settled where we're supposed to stop, we'll get back to you, because at this point, police are still not sure where we should be. And as you can see, a lot of police activity. They're trying to move the media to a safe area so we can do proper reporting and let everybody know exactly what's going on. For now, back to you.
Walter, have they given you any indication? I'm sorry, he can't hear me. All right. We simply do not know who has been hurt and what casualties might have occurred, which is the information that we are... I want you to take a look at what's happening right now. That is a live picture.
That's World
a
Trade
live
Center
picture.
2.
That's World Trade Center 2 has just collapsed.
That's the second
Oh,
of the
my
towers
God.
to collapse.
We are now looking at the collapse of the second of the World Trade Center towers. Again, this is something that we never dreamed we would witness in our lifetime. Let us tell you that to come into this city right now, you will not be able to. The bridges, the tunnels, shut down. Subway lines, trains, pretty much closed. The New York Stock Exchange.
Just a moment ago, the entire top of the building collapsed. You can see a massive plume of smoke. People are running away from the area. There are firefighters and there are police trying to evacuate the area as quickly as possible. People who are near the area are in an absolute frenzied situation. The entire top of the building just collapsed. You can see the plume of smoke is coming in our direction. Let's get out of here, Ralph. We're going to leave because the smoke is coming right at us.
Obviously, this is a devastating
They're
moment
gone. Look
in
at
our
that.
history.
They're gone. The World Trade Center is no more.
We do not know at this point the extent of injuries or casualties, how many people were in these buildings trying to get out. We've seen some gut-wrenching descriptions, witness accounts of people hanging out of windows, jumping, trying to get to safety.
You see the obvious...
Look at the plume.
All right, let's go to
of smoke.
NBC News right now.
We are back at 10:30 Eastern Time on this Tuesday morning, this horrific, incredible, not to be believed Tuesday morning. You are looking at live pictures of the World Trade Center where just a few minutes ago, within the last minute actually, the second Twin Tower collapsed. Just to recap, if you're just joining us, around 8:42 Eastern Time this morning here in New York City, a plane crashed into the right Twin Tower of the World Trade Center about 2/3 of the way up the building, leaving a huge gaping hole, a huge fire, and tons of billowing smoke. About 25 minutes later, a second jet, believed to be a 727 or a 737,
some reports of a 757 even,
then crashed in the second Twin Tower. The first plane, incidentally, was en route from Boston, Massachusetts to Los Angeles.
here's the video, I think, of the second plane striking the tower.
That's right. We're not sure the origin of that plane, is my understanding. The first plane that caused that hole on the right-hand side in the other Twin Tower was from Boston to LAX to Los Angeles. It was Flight 11, American Airlines. We have confirmed that that plane was hijacked. What happened following the hijacking rather, is unclear. We should note that about an hour after the first collision at the Pentagon, reportedly another plane crashed into the Pentagon, which is just outside Washington, D.C. in Northern Virginia. All air traffic has been stopped.
Government buildings have been evacuated, as have other buildings across the country. The Sears Tower in Chicago was evacuated. You can imagine that other buildings in major cities and small cities around the country are probably being evacuated as well.
There's an unconfirmed report of a car bomb at the State Department. We have not been able to pin that down. There is also, Jim Miklashevsky was told that there was an unconfirmed report of another air hijacking. We share this with you not in an attempt to in any way exacerbate what is already a terrible situation, but so much has come true today based on these early reports that we want you to have as much information as we can possibly get. At the Pentagon, all people outside were told to take cover just moments ago, but Jim Miklashevsky said the skies were clear.
There was an
at that time.
unconfirmed report of another hijacking with a plane headed towards Washington. Again, we don't want to sound alarmist, but that is something that Mick heard while he was at the Pentagon. We also want to mention that the president is en route from Longboat Key, Florida, where he was there to visit an elementary school to talk about literacy. Obviously, clearly, his agenda has changed dramatically. He will convene a meeting of the National Security Council as soon as he gets home. Colin Powell is also on his way back from Lima, Peru. He was scheduled to be in Bogota, Colombia.
And probably not at the White House. They'll probably take him to a safe location. There are a number of them, some in the hills of Virginia, as you know, And my guess is that Air Force One is in the unusual situation of having a fighter plane escort on its way back from Florida today. That's where we stand.
Think about the loss of life that we could have seen this morning. If you think about the fact that when full, the World Trade Centers hold about 50,000 people, no telling how many people were at work before 9 o'clock this morning and then shortly after 9 o'clock in the other tower. But if you look at this picture here, Tom and Katie, at Lower Manhattan, it appears that terrorists have succeeded this time in doing what terrorists tried to do back in 1993.
This is war. This is a declaration and an execution of an attack on the United States, two of our most conspicuous symbols of the American system of capitalism. The Pentagon, which of course is the headquarters of the most mighty military in the world, was attacked today as well. The White House has been evacuated. The State Department has been evacuated. Financial markets have been immobilized. All flights taking off after these attacks were grounded.
International flights have been sent to Canada.
It turns out it's transatlantic flights only going to Canada now. So there has been great chaos visited this country, to say nothing, as you pointed out, Matt, so importantly, of the still untold loss of life. And it's going to be horrendous. We don't know yet what the exact numbers are, but we can only tell you by looking at those pictures that you can guess as well as that we can, that there are going to be a lot of people who are not going to be able to escape that.
Back in 1993, when the bomb blew up in the basement of the World Trade Center, so many survivors talked about how long it took them, with no power in the elevators, to walk down the smoke-filled stairways. And you think about how many people were still trying to escape those buildings when first one and then the second tower collapsed.
And of course the triage unit that has been set up. Area hospitals are all receiving victims, and as Matt said, 50,000 capacity when everybody is in the building, but many people at 8:42 a.m. here in New York are at their desks working in their offices. One young man or one man was reached by phone and was asked what is happening there, and he said, we are blanking dying here. And there was screaming and yelling and pure chaos, understandably, going on in the background.
There's a picture of Lower Manhattan, ladies and gentlemen, the most important city in the world in so many ways. And now it has been attacked by terrorists at the World Trade Center, and the damage is beyond our ability to tell you in great detail.
Let me mention that,
I was going to say, here's what the president said. He canceled an education appearance in Florida. Here's what he said just a short time ago.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a difficult moment for America. I, unfortunately, will be going back to Washington after my remarks. Secretary Rod Pace and Lieutenant Governor will take the podium and discuss education. I do want to thank the folks here at Booker Elementary School for their hospitality. Today we've had a national tragedy. Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand. And now, if you join me in a moment of silence.
That was George W. Bush about an hour ago, speaking from Longboat Key, Florida. He is en route to Washington, D.C. We're looking at some pictures on the ground, or we were, of apparently some of the victims. He is on the ground.
Quite extraordinary. These are the emergency workers who are coming back. It was just about 10 minutes ago that we described to you the possibility of that North Tower collapsing. About 5 minutes after we went off the air, it did collapse. Once again, we have no idea at this point the loss of life. I can only tell you there were hundreds of emergency workers down there, about 5 or 6 blocks. It took probably about, I would say, no more than 50 or 60 seconds for that dust cloud, dust and smoke, to literally make it the 5 or 6 blocks up here and begin to envelop us, at which point we started to move out of the way. There were literally dozens and dozens of firemen who were trying to run past us. In fact, our cameraman even put one of the captains in his car and drove him down to a command post. The people who you see here are pretty much all emergency workers. many of them that I have seen in the last 2 to 3 minutes, quite frankly, are coming out of here, and remember this, these are professionals. They're coming out of there looking literally stunned, in shock, many of them, struggling for breath, obviously in serious distress. Breathing problems are the biggest problem for those who manage to make it safely out of that area down below us. You can't see much more than a block south of me right now, and the World Trade Center probably stands about 10 blocks south of where I am at this moment. And as you can see now, the dust is beginning to pick up here. It really depends on which way the wind blows as to whether or not we get heavy dust or not. But at this point, I can tell you that in the first few minutes, emergency workers were trying just basically to get out of there, to survive. You could see that written in their faces. The situation was so desperate, they just wanted to get out of there. Now, many of them are beginning to regroup. A couple of them asked me where their commander might be. They're trying to get together and go back in there and try to take care of the people who obviously are in serious trouble. There's no other way to describe it. The language here, at times, if I slip into language which seems a little melodramatic, forgive me, but this is a circumstance which is very, very difficult to describe in many ways without sounding melodramatic. Certainly in more than 20 years of covering horrific events, this is something that I've never seen before. As we say, the emergency workers now beginning to try to gather themselves. Over there you can see a police emergency service unit. They're trying basically now to reestablish some kind of a safe perimeter. And many of the emergency workers basically just happy to be alive. Certainly that picture tells it all. Many of them just happy to be alive at this point, having survived what is an extraordinary event, the collapse of 2 towers. As we said earlier in our report, 110 stories each. I will tell you that what fell, what I saw fall, had to be at least 40, 50 stories of that building at first. The skeleton was left at about, I would say, the 50 or 60th floor after the shell, after the structure of the building fell down. The skeleton, the steel skeleton, was literally sheaved off, and it took probably about another 30 seconds before the skeleton collapsed into the street. That was the last we saw of the World Trade Center, and that was maybe 10 minutes ago when that final skeleton, the metal skeleton, steel skeleton, collapsed into the street.
That was NBC's Pat Dawson again. He's standing about 10 blocks from where the World Trade Center towers used to stand. You're looking at the collapse of one of those towers right now. We now have an AP News alert out of Pittsburgh. Officials at Somerset County Airport are confirming the crash of a large plane just north of the airport. That's about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. Again, officials at Somerset County Airport confirm the crash of a large plane north of that airport, which is located about 80 miles to the southeast of the city of Pittsburgh. We do not know whether that crash of that plane is related to what has become an obvious terrorist attack both here in New York City and in Washington, D.C. at the Pentagon.
Matt, we just got a late word that State Department security officials are denying those reports of a car bomb at the State Department. Betsy Stewart is at the C Street entrance and also says there's no sign of a car bomb. Betsy Stewart is one of our producers who's very familiar with the State Department. The building has been evacuated. Top officials are still believed to be in the operations center, however. Those are highly secured areas in terms of penetration physically and otherwise. Colin Powell, as Andrea reported earlier, was headed for Lima, Peru, but he's done a U-turn and he's coming back. The president is on his way back. He'll have a National Security Council meeting, we think probably at around 11:30 or perhaps around noon. That is likely to take place either at Andrews Air Force Base or in some more secure location. The White House has been evacuated, especially with this report of another plane going down, this time in the Pittsburgh area. There were planes in the air when the order went out that there would be no more takeoffs, so we don't know how much more damage these terrorists had in mind.
Let's go to Bob Hager, who is, of course, NBC's aviation expert. Bob, what kind of information are you getting from your sources?
Not a lot, Katie, from the FAA. For instance, they are not talking about any possible hijacks. Normally, they can tell when there's a hijack in progress because the pilot, the original pilot of the plane, has various buttons that he can push that set off a code and tell them that there were hijacks. But maybe as a matter of security, they're not saying anything about that. They did stop all takeoffs in the U.S. at 9:25 this morning, And then for pilots that were in the air, the question came up what to do about them, and they were given some discretion to continue on to their destination, so long as it was not the New York or Washington area, or divert to an airport if that's what they wanted to do. I saw the blast at the Pentagon, not the blast take place, but moments after it. I'd been at National Airport trying to get up to New York, and you could see that smoke billowing out of the Pentagon. I can give you a little description of what it's like on the streets of Washington, because it was quite crowded trying to work my way back here to NBC. They have now given not only the White House and those key buildings like the U.S. Capitol, but at this point they've given all federal employees the word to leave their offices and get home.
All right.
So there are traffic jams in Washington.
Okay, Bob, I'm sure you're going to get more information for us momentarily, but first we want to go to Jim Miklaszewski at the Pentagon, who has some more information. Mick?
Katie, they're still clearing people away from the Pentagon. Still, security forces believe that there may be another incoming plane headed in the Washington region. But there was a very telling, dramatic moment just a second ago when a U.S. Air Force F-16 flew very low level, did a wide sweeping turn around the Pentagon and back over Washington. And as one Air Force officer standing near me said, "My God, they're now flying air cover over Washington." A very dramatic moment, a milestone in what Tom has already described as a declaration of war, terrorist war against the U.S.
Let's go back and show you the pictures of Lower Manhattan, where the situation only gets worse, not better. That is the financial district of the world. It's also a residential area and a great commercial area. Both Twin Trade Tower buildings now have collapsed onto the ground. There is an untold loss of life. The ripple effect goes on with all the smoke and dust that is spread out across that very densely populated area. It goes down below ground as well as in the high-rise buildings there. There are many residential structures in that area as well. Some heroic rescue workers were down there trying to get people out of the building when the first building came down, and then the second building did as well. Without any sound and looking at this, there is a kind of a surreal quality. But that is the epicenter of a great, great national tragedy and a great loss of life. No question about it this morning.
We're talking about people who were hurt, perhaps killed in this blast. Many of them have been brought to area hospitals, including St. Vincent's Hospital. Bob Bazell is there. Bob, what's the latest?
Well, Katie, ambulances continue to stream in. Several New York City streets have been closed. Major avenues have been closed off so that ambulances can continue to come in. In addition, the New York City subway system has now been closed down, and several buildings that were not involved in the World Trade Center area have been shut down, and people have been told to go home, but a lot of them are just wandering aimlessly on the street. Many people openly weeping and hugging each other. This is clearly is a time that, as Tom described, is very close to the beginning of a war, and but the casualties do keep coming in. Burns, smoke inhalation, very severe, and again, all the medical people that I've talked to say this is just the tip of the iceberg. We expect casualties to be coming in all through the night and way into tomorrow and beyond.
Bob, if you could just stand by for a moment, because we have this report from AP that I'm just simply going to read. A large plane crashed Tuesday morning just north of the Somerset County Airport, about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. Airport officials said the plane, believed to be a Boeing 767, crashed around 10 a.m. about 8 miles east of Jennerstown, according to County 911 dispatchers. WPXI-TV reported. The crash came the same morning that terrorists crashed two planes into the World Trade Center in New York City, and the twin 110-story towers collapsed. Explosions also rocked the Pentagon and the State Department, although that was refuted moments ago, and spread fear across the nation. There was no other immediate details on the Pennsylvania crash, and it was not clear whether the crash was related to the others. Again, that was a report, a bulletin that was just issued by the Associated Press.
You know what is so stunning about all of this, Matt and Katie, is that there has been no indication whatsoever that this very carefully coordinated massive attack was going to occur. There's been a complete intelligence failure here. And there will be, obviously, down the road, a price to pay for that.
Well, that's actually not all that surprising, Tom, because we've often talked in the past, following every terrorist event, about how vulnerable the United States is, and many terrorist experts say how unprepared they are. And the question, of course, is, can you ever prepare for an attack like this?
Well, that's true, but we also have people out there who are in listening posts, and we've penetrated these kinds of organizations, but to have this kind of an attack, this sophisticated, this efficient, striking at the heart of the nation's capital, striking at the heart of New York City, now And if this is true, that this plane went down as a result of this attack, we don't know whether it's the end of it.
Right.
This is a massively well-coordinated attack of some kind that is nothing short but of a declaration of war on this
And
country.
terrorist experts are now saying, and intelligence experts are now saying, that there are very short or very few number of terrorist groups that are capable of this kind of planning, and a couple of names come to mind, and I'm not going to throw them out now because we certainly don't have any reports. Before I go to Jamie Gangel, I just want to say that some of the descriptions coming from eyewitnesses in lower Manhattan of these explosions occurring are chilling. One man talked about getting off a PATH train, that's a subway train, here in lower Manhattan, and looking up at the building after the first explosion and seeing people jump out of the windows. We have no idea how high up, but hearing people on the ground scream each time another person jumped out of a window attempting to get to safety. And then when the second explosion occurred, he felt the heat of the explosion on the back of his neck. Jamie Gangel is our national correspondent. She's joining us now on the phone. Jamie?
Matt, you know, speaking of those intelligence officials that you were just mentioning, now finally we can no longer reach on the phone anyone at the CIA. Apparently the CIA has been evacuated. We know the National Security Agency, which is the electronic eavesdropping agency, which is south of Baltimore near Fort Meade, Maryland, that they have been shut down. What we're hearing from both places is that all non-essential personnel have been told to leave. And I can only imagine that probably they are trying to move some of their operations out of those buildings as well for backup procedure. But in addition to whatever intelligence was or was missed in all of this, we now have perhaps some problems gathering intelligence as those buildings are now being shut down.
Right, Jamie, thank you very much. Tom, let's go back and talk about something you mentioned a second ago, that it shows the enormity of this situation. In addition to what we assume will be horrendous loss of life, all planes in this country have been grounded. I mean, you think about the impact that has, and I mean, is there ever a time we can imagine something like that ever happening before?
The most powerful nation in the world, and national security officials and terrorist experts have been saying for some time, a small band of very willful and sophisticated people can bring us to a halt, and they have done just that. There's a psychological terror as a result of all of this, as you can only imagine how it plays out across the country today. People looking in who don't live in New York or live in the nation's capital are wondering what happens around me. It is hard to overstate the consequences of all of this, and this is just the beginning. We'll be living with this story and dealing with the consequences of it for some time. The United States will change as a result of all of this. We already thought that there was a lot of security in America at the airports and so on, and yet there was a successful hijacking at Boston Airport today, and the consequences of that we're seeing on the screen here this morning. So this is going to change this country profoundly in not just the coming days, but the coming months, to say nothing, as you have been saying, Matt, of the horrific loss of life that we're witnessing.
On that subject, you know, and Katie and Tom, to complete a thought I started before, you both were out at the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, a much smaller building, and it took rescue workers more than a week to find all the people trapped in that wreckage. We have a building here two buildings of each 110 stories. It's mind-boggling to think of what it's going to take over these next days and weeks to find survivors or victims of these explosions.
And of course, it continues to be a terrifying situation because there are a number of planes up in the air as this took place, and a number of unconfirmed and frightening reports about those planes that we heard earlier from Jim Miklaszewski, that somebody had gotten word at the Pentagon that perhaps there is another plane, whether they were talking about the one north of Pittsburgh or it's completely unclear. And it's also unclear whether these planes that were en route to a destination have been grounded themselves. In other words, that there were emergency landings or what. I think it's very difficult to get any communication with airports all across the country because they're, I'm sure, completely chaotic.
Katie, you know from your time in Oklahoma City and all the time that you spent with the victims there, the psychological effect of all of this on this country and how it's going to affect our whole sense of security. And in a way, our sense of innocence about this is Fortress America. It couldn't happen here. We said that about the Murrah Federal Building. We even said it about Columbine High School. This is an incident of a whole different magnitude.
I have to say, I've never, ever, witnessed anything quite as horrific. I hate to keep saying it because we have seen these types of things play out in movies and, you know, in worst-case scenarios and in dramatic renditions of this kind of incident, but certainly no one has ever seen this kind of thing unfold, and it is really shocking.
We want to go now. On the phone we have Neil Livingston, who is an expert on terrorism. Mr. Livingston, can you hear me?
Again.
You know, we were talking about what it would take in terms of planning and coordination to pull off an attack like this with so many prongs. At least 2 attacks here in New York City, 1 in Washington, D.C. We don't know if the crash of that plane outside Pittsburgh is related, but give me an idea of how many groups there are in the country that would be capable of something like this.
Well, there are very few groups in the world capable of this kind of action. And you have to remember also that we have the people who hijacked these planes were going to a certain death as well. So they were suicide bombers, in effect. And that probably suggests that this was not something like the Medellin cartel or one of the other groups that has the financial wherewithal and the infrastructure to carry out coordinated attacks.
Yeah, I know.
I think that obviously the finger of suspicion, and we're always very cautious about pointing that in any particular direction, but we have to look to the Middle East. We have to look to Osama bin Laden. We have to look at some Palestinian groups right now.
But even in the past, when we were talking about Osama bin Laden and his group, there have been intelligence experts who've picked up conversations, transmissions that occurred before an attack to give some kind of indication, even if we didn't understand them till after the attack. Is it unusual that with so many prongs to an attack that there wouldn't have been some type of warning through intelligence sources?
Well, it's a myth that we always know that these things are coming down. Part of our problem is, and we just had a warning go out to our embassies and military bases in the Far East. That could have been a feint. That could have been a diversion. We have so many warnings these days that people, they tend to fade into the background noise unless we have real specific information about an upcoming attack. Generally, we don't take action. And these groups are very hard to penetrate. They're focused with bonds of kinship and people who have known each other for years. So it doesn't surprise me that we didn't know that this was coming.
All right, Mr. Livingston, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Benjamin Levy is at the scene near the World Trade Center. Actually, he's going to tell us precisely where he is and what he saw. Benjamin, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, Benjamin?
Yes?
Hi, it's Katie Couric. Can you tell me where you are and what you have seen or what you are seeing?
Well, right now I'm in Lower Manhattan, but I was working, I work at the Federal Building behind City Hall. And we were just sitting at our desks about 9 a.m. this morning. We heard a big explosion. Then about 5 minutes or maybe 10 minutes later, we saw the other plane hit the building, the second tower, and then we just evacuated. And as we started to walk away, we turned around about maybe 15 minutes after we left the building, and the second tower just disappeared from sight. And I tell you, I've never seen anything more horrible in my entire life.
Did you see any people, any casualties, Mr. Levy?
We we bumped into a guy from Tower 1 who said that he had a chance to get out of the building after the plane hit the first one. He had a chance to get out of the second one, but he said that people were jumping out of the windows to get away from the fire.
Where are you now, Benjamin?
I'm in a hair salon in Lower Manhattan, talking to you guys.
Well, obviously, that was...
And was the whole Federal Building evacuated, Mr. Levy?
Yeah, well, we started running out of the building as soon as we saw the second explosion. And then I work on the 22nd floor. As soon as we were down at the bottom, they sounded the alarm, and then they announced evacuation, but most of us were already out.
How far physically are you actually from the World Trade Center?
Right now, or where I work?
No, when this happened.
About 6 blocks away.
6 blocks away. And you were able to get out pretty easily, and there were no kind of electrical problems in your building as a result of the impact of the fire or anything like that?
No, we got out pretty good, thank God.
And as that whole area down there, the City Hall, the Federal Building, and all the other commercial buildings, they've all been evacuated as well.
Well, yeah, as we were leaving, the police were telling all the shop owners to shut their shops and go home.
And that must be enveloped by the smoke and dust and everything that we see now, because that covers the entire lower end of Manhattan, which is a considerably large area, not only physically, but in terms of the financial networks, the commerce that is done there, a lot of residential areas.
Yeah, you could smell the smoke, and you could smell it, but it wasn't. We were walking away from it.
Benjamin Levy. Benjamin, thanks so much for talking with us. We appreciate it, and we're glad you're safe.
Katie, I've got just a little rundown here, if I can, Matt, for just a moment about what's going on around the country. The State Department officials have been moved into the State Department Training Center in Arlington, Virginia. The state has been evacuated, obviously. In Minneapolis, St. Paul International Airport shut down. The IDS Center in downtown Minneapolis, tallest building, evacuated. Georgia, all flights at Hartsfield Atlanta International Airport closed. The CNN Center, world headquarters of Cable News Network, was closed to the public. In Maryland, officials are tightening security throughout the state. Of course, that's the home of Andrews Air Force Base. Navy installations throughout the Hampton Roads, home to the world's largest Navy base, have been placed under increased security. In Pennsylvania, Philadelphia International Airport has been closed, and of course the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall are being closed as well.
In fact, all national monuments, Tom, I believe, have been evacuated
Right,
and closed.
and California, the state has been put on the highest alert. They're on tactical alert in Los Angeles. The Department of Energy's Nuclear Weapons and Research Complex in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, put under heightened security.
It is now coming up on 10:59 East Coast time. We'll give you a recap of what we've seen so far in just a moment. Just a quick note from one of the hospitals downtown in New York City, where they say that hundreds of people have been burned from head to toe. This is from Dr. Stephen Stern at St. Vincent's Hospital in Greenwich Village. About 50 or 60 doctors and nurses standing by in scrubs. The entire entrance to the emergency room was lined with stretchers covered with white sheets. Doctors said the victims mostly had burns.
Of course, they're being treated in a number of area hospitals, including St. Vincent's, NYU. Downtown is just about 5 minutes away. As a spokesperson told us earlier, they've had a lot of experience dealing with problems at the World Trade Center from that February terrorist bombing in 1993. And obviously, they have all been mobilized, and emergency crews are working feverishly outside the World Trade Center.
You are looking at a live picture of Lower Manhattan at 11 o'clock East Coast time on a day of tragedy and terror in the United States. You're looking at what remains of the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan. Earlier this morning, just before 9 o'clock and just after 9 o'clock, two planes and individual attacks struck each tower of the World Trade Center, causing gaping holes in both towers. You're looking at a tape now after the first impact, and there is the second impact of a large jet flown, we now believe, deliberately into the second tower. It was a short time after that the towers collapsed. And then there was an attack in Washington, D.C. We now have confirmed reports that a plane crashed into the Pentagon. We have no reports of confirmed injuries or death. However, it's clear officials all across the country are now saying this is a deliberate terrorist attack on the United States. As Tom has put it so far this morning, this is a declaration of war by terrorists against the United States.
And of course, we should mention, by the way, Tom, before we talk about terrorism, that another large plane crashed as well, just north of Somerset County Airport, 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was a Boeing 767 that crashed around 10 o'clock this morning, and it is unclear whether the crash was related to the other crashes that took place this morning.
President Bush is en route back to Washington. The State Department has been evacuated. There's been that attack on the Pentagon. That has been evacuated. The White House has been evacuated. There will be an emergency meeting of the National Security Council. This is the most serious attack on the United States since Pearl Harbor. There has never been a terrorist attack of this magnitude, in fact, on any country in the world so far as we can tell. The untold loss of life in New York alone. We only know that there have been hundreds of burn victims brought to various hospitals. Both Twin Trade Tower centers have collapsed to the ground. That's a densely populated area, obviously. We don't know the number of casualties yet at the Pentagon, and we don't know the number of deaths in that plane that went down, as Katie pointed, north of Pittsburgh.
And what we've left out a piece of information, we know for a fact that one of these planes that was crashed into the World Trade Center was hijacked from Boston this morning. It was American Airlines Flight 11 en route from Boston to Los Angeles. We had reports it had been diverted to JFK, and a short time later, perhaps while feigning a landing at JFK, it veered dramatically into the World Trade Center.
All air travel has been stopped. Airports have been closed across the country to planes departing. In terms of planes that are en route, it is unclear if they've made emergency landings or if they're reaching their final destinations. The White House has been evacuated, the State Department, the CIA has been evacuated. Of course, many, many buildings in Manhattan and Lower Manhattan have been evacuated as well.
And transatlantic flights to this country are being diverted to Canada. Still, no claim of responsibility that is verifiable or credible at this time. Yasser Arafat has condemned this attack, saying it's shocking and appalling.
Of course, we should mention back in February of 1993 was when that bomb went off in the garage of the World Trade Center, killing 6 people, injuring 1,000 people. And that, of course, was an unbelievable scene, but compared to this,
this is what they intended to do back then.
Minor. Let's go to Bob Hager, who has some information for us. Bob?
Katie, I was just thinking as you commented there about the various planes involved. The one that we know of so far, because it's confirmed by American Airlines, is that Flight 11, which had been scheduled from Boston's Logan Airport to Los Angeles, that Flight 11 was hijacked this morning, and it is presumed that it may have been one of the planes that went into one of the towers of the World Trade Center. There were at least 2 more planes involved in this because the other tower was hit, and then the Pentagon was also, there were eyewitness accounts that it was a plane that went into the Pentagon, but so far we don't know the sources of those planes, whether they were commercial planes that had been hijacked, whether they were private planes, whether they'd been hijacked at all. And I would point out the report from Somerset County, Pennsylvania, is so far just local authorities commenting. The FAA has not confirmed that crash, so we're waiting to hear more, and I'm hearing just now, bear with me.
Bob.
Oh, FAA is now confirming, so this adds to those earlier rumors that there are several airplanes that are unaccounted for. So there were some rumors that there might have been other planes hijacked that we didn't yet know the outcome of it. And now the FAA is confirming that. There are several, is the word I heard, several planes that are unaccounted for that were evidently hijacked and has not come to a conclusion yet.
Bob, we'd like you to get a list of as many of those as you can, as specifically as possible. We're going to show you now, we're going to replay a tape of the second attack on the World Trade Centers in slow-mo. There's the plane. As you can see, a large airline-type plane. And now the collision. Flown deliberately into the second one.
When they say several, Bob, do they give you any indication of what they're talking about?
Several is the description that I had, and that was just passed on to me a moment ago, so I wasn't talking personally to the FAA person, but several is the account I had.
And Bob, American Airlines, the Flight 11 out of Boston, do we know what exactly kind of plane that was and perhaps how many people were on board?
We do not yet, but I think we're going to get some additional information from American. They were supposed to be adding comment to this from Dulles Airport here in a few moments, so we might learn a little bit more about that. But right now, it's very important to worry about rumors and so forth. I'd like to hear some more confirmation that a plane really has crashed in Pennsylvania, for instance, since the FAA hasn't confirmed that. But I think one needs to be very careful here in this chaotic situation.
We have a report here that Osama bin Laden, who is often identified as the world's leading terrorist, warned 3 weeks ago that he and his followers would carry out an unprecedented attack on U.S. interests for its support of Israel. An Arab journalist with access said to him Tuesday in London.
Abdel Bari Atwan, editor of the London-based Al-Qud Al-Arabi newspaper, said Islamic fundamentalists led by bin Laden was almost certainly behind the attack of the World Trade Center in New York. Quote, it's most likely the work of Islamic fundamentalists. Osama bin Laden warned 3 weeks ago that he would attack American interest in an unprecedented attack, a very big one, Atwan told Reuters.
He has interviewed bin Laden, and he maintains close contact with his followers, according to Reuters. So that's the first report that we've had that Osama bin Laden may have been responsible. Obviously, it was a very sophisticated organization, carefully coordinated. It had to have its origins in this country. Louis Freeh, the FBI director, as he left office, said that his continuing great concern with the number of terrorist cells that exist in America, not just in some shadowy enclave in Afghanistan or somewhere in the subcontinent, but they've taken root in this country because it's so easy to get here.
Let's talk a little bit more about Osama bin Laden, because as you say, he was associated with the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Why don't we talk about him and what he has done here in the United States, Tom, to give people a little bit of background?
Well, he is from Saudi Arabia originally. He's wealthy. He is very sophisticated in terms of using the new technology. We believe that he is being harbored in Afghanistan. No one knows for sure. A number of people have attempted to get to him and have been unsuccessful in that. They also believe that he was behind the bombings in Kenya as well. He is obviously a zealot of great, dark passion, and most of it is directed at the United States.
Brian Jenkins, our terrorist expert, remains on the phone. Brian, tell us a little bit more about Osama bin Laden, and if you think that he might, in fact, have carried out this kind of well-orchestrated, horrific attack on the United States.
Well, certainly he would have to be included in any very, very short list of suspects, but it is premature to be able to say with any confidence who might be responsible in something like this. I mean, we know what has happened, we know when it has happened, we know where it has happened, who and why it takes a little bit longer to figure out. I have no doubt that we will ultimately be able to identify who is responsible. But until that time, we can only speculate.
But Brian, in an attack of this magnitude that is so carefully coordinated and executed with such cold-blooded efficiency, it obviously had to be a very sophisticated organization.
Clearly, this took organization, and while organization has in terrorism in recent years become more fluid, that is, we are not dealing with the identifiable terrorist organizations that we dealt with in the 1970s and 1980s. Terrorism in the last decade has been a lot more fluid, and from these universes of like-minded fanatics, people have been able to put together these ad hoc conspiracies. Nonetheless, the magnitude of this attack, the coordination involved in this attack, does indicate a considerable amount of planning and organization.
Mr. Jenkins, if you'll hold for a second, I want to go back to Bob Hager of NBC. Bob, we were talking a second. Apparently, we don't have Bob at the moment. All right, let's go to Jim Kallstrom, who's the former director of the FBI's New York office. Jim, we just talked about the fact that sooner or later we'll know who did this, but where does law enforcement start? Obviously, we know that in several cases we're talking about the plane as the weapon, so to speak, but where do we start to track who's responsible?
Well, Matt, I think someone said it there, this is unprecedented. And law enforcement will start from the base of intelligence that they already have and hopefully always have. And I mean, that's the argument in the country. I mean, we have a very short memory in the United States, and maybe that's good, maybe it's bad, but that's why we need effective law enforcement. Although in a free society, as Brian Jenkins points out, and I agree with him totally, it's very, very difficult to stop things like this. I mean, the first goal would have been to stop this horrific event. And of course, the second goal now is to save as many people as we can and to find out who did it. And thirdly, and most importantly, not let something like this happen again.
Jim, if you were starting the investigation tomorrow morning, where would you begin with the man who hijacked that American Airlines flight?
I'd probably have 100 courses of action taken simultaneously. I'm sure that's what's going on as we speak. It's a bit chaos. I mean, I just look at the TWA tragedy and why we responded the way we did. We were at a heightened threat for terrorism, and it sure looked like terrorism, and this is so much bigger than that. It's chaotic, but law enforcement's trying to make sense out of it. They're trying to obviously not let something happen again in the next 10 minutes, the next hour, the next 2 hours. So that's on the mind of public safety officials in Washington and locally. And of course, a long-range plan to see what we can do about stopping this. You know, we live in a free society. People come and go. Our borders are open. We see that talked about on the news every night. Not so much from a terrorism standpoint, from a work standpoint. But people land at our major airports every day, undocumented. So it's extremely difficult As Brian pointed out earlier, these terrorist cells are very insulated from each other. There's no particular hierarchy like there was in the Mafia, where you put a particular wiretap in at the top and you know everything that's going on. That's not the case here. We know there's tremendous hatred. I mean, we've talked about this in law enforcement for over a decade. They blew up the World Trade Center. They tried to bring the World Trade Center down. They've blown up many other government symbols, and Ramzi Youssef tried to blow up 11 jumbo jets simultaneously.
Okay, Jim, I'm sorry to interrupt. It's Katie Couric. We want to go to Pat Dawson, who's down at the World Trade Center with an official, talking to that official. Pat?
Yes, Katie, forgive me, we're just trying to get obviously, as you can imagine, Joe, go ahead, you may put the microphone on there. As you can imagine, this is a very difficult situation here. We are here with a couple of guests who can give us at least some insight into what's going on there. This is Chief William Hall of the Port Authority Police of New York. As we told you earlier, the Port Authority Police have jurisdiction over the Trade Center. And also Alan Rice, who's the director of the World Trade Center. Gentlemen, if I get you just to stand like that. First of all, Chief, do we have any idea of how many people are in there?
We have no idea. Now, as you know, it was pretty much rush hour time that this took place this morning, so the numbers we don't know yet. We tried to get almost everybody out that we could early on.
After the first two crashes, when the planes hit the building, there was roughly about, I would say, what, an hour and 15 minutes between that and the point where the South Tower collapsed, give or take. How many people you were able to get out? Do you have any idea?
We don't know. We tried to do a floor-by-floor search. New York City Police, the Fire Department, Port Authority Police, best they could, tried to get everybody out. But as you know, there were people still coming out after that building came down.
Do you have any idea how many people would normally be in the building at 8:30 or north? This is the director of the
There's probably 10,000 people in each tower. 10,000 people in each tower would typically be in there on a normal business day. And we get about another 5,000 visitors during the course of the entire day. So by 8:30, 9 o'clock, the building should have been full.
Okay, so in other words, by 8:30 to 9, you figure the building would have been approaching full capacity with the workers. So we are talking about roughly 10,000 people.
Per tower.
Per tower. Now, at this point, obviously, you've got a situation, these towers having collapsed, that is bordering on chaotic. What's the first challenge? What are you doing at this moment? I've seen emergency workers try to go in there after the first couple of crashes and come running back out. What are you trying to do now?
I guess the next step is between the chief and myself and my staff. We're going to go assess the condition and determine whether it's safe or not to send personnel into the building to continue looking and evacuating people.
Are there any emergency workers in there now?
We don't know that.
We don't know.
If they were in there now, presumably they would have been trapped in there from the earlier.
It's possible. It's possible from what we saw happen there. Yeah, very much so. We were trapped ourselves in the building in the basement. We were the building collapsed when we came out of that. But yes,
you were in the basement of the South Tower.
No, we were in the basement of building 5, 6.
Okay.
Right, and I was in building 5. We had to dig our way out to get out.
You dug your way out. What was that like?
Scary.
Scary, but I was a volunteer fireman for years, so you learn not to panic.
Yeah. What was the one last thing? What do you do right now to try to get to those people? How long before you get to those people?
We're going to have to wait and make the building safe. We have our engineers here, our law department here. We're going to make the building safe, and we're going to send in rescue teams. We're already breaking the men and women up into rescue teams, and they're ready to go once the building is declared safe of what's left.
And how soon before they're back in there?
We're going to try and do this right now, and I hope soon.
Is any part of the building still standing down there? We can't really see.
I can't see either. I can see what you see. I don't know.
You don't even know how much of the building is left?
No, that's where we're going now, to assess the condition.
All right,
so thank you very much.
We understand you have emergency work to do. We appreciate it very much taking the time out. The latest report that we have at this point from those who are in charge of that building, speaking to the director of the World Trade Center and also to the chief of the Port Authority Police, they are at this point, as they said, just trying to put together a plan to go in there and just assess the damage. This sequence of extraordinary tragedies, this of catastrophes, really, first the two crashes, and then in sequence, one tower of the building coming down, another tower of the building coming down. Obviously, the first
order of business is to try to organize themselves and to go back in there in a way that doesn't endanger more emergency workers, because I can tell you, based on what I've seen, there have been a number of emergency workers who were put in harm's way this morning. They had to be, but the toll has to be extraordinary. Tom, we'll throw it back to you.
Thank you very much, Pat Dawson. Those are the first numbers that we've had this morning. They think there were about 20,000 people in the two buildings at the time of the attack, to say nothing of the untold number of people on the streets or in nearby buildings who could also have suffered injuries or worse when the buildings did come down. This is tantamount to war. You're looking at the lower end of Manhattan. A plane has attacked the Pentagon this morning as well. There is a report of a hijacked plane that went down near Pittsburgh. NBC's Robert Hager is tracking all of this through the FAA for us. Robert?
Well, there's some more information now on the one confirmed hijacking that we know of, and that was that American Airlines flight number 11. It was a 767, took off from Boston Logan this morning. It was to go to Los Angeles. American Airlines confirmed it was hijacked, and we have some first numbers on how many were on board. 58 passengers and a crew of 11, so 69 people on that flight. That's presumed to be one of the planes that went into one of the towers of the World Trade Center. The other planes that we know of, the other tower of the World Trade Center and the plane that went that crashed into the Pentagon area, those are unknown flights. The Pennsylvania crash, which is still not the FAA, but it's local authorities saying it, our affiliate in Pittsburgh has heard traffic on the radio scanners saying that it was a flight that originated in Chicago and was headed to Cleveland, but I'd caution that that sort of information coming off radio scanners is very, very sketchy and so very unreliable, but it's the first report off the scanners.
Bob, an FBI spokesman is quoted as saying that there were 4 flights that were hijacked altogether. We know about American 11. I'm not going to mention the names of the carriers or the numbers on the others. Are you getting any kind of detail like that at the FAA?
No, the FAA is not getting into that kind of detail. And a moment ago, I said that they said there were several planes still in the air, and that was a report was coming to me while I was on the air, so I'm getting it secondhand. And now I understand what they were saying is that they had unaccounted flights. Flights that were unaccounted for, so that could mean, in addition to the American Airlines Flight 11, the other planes that went into those other buildings. It does not necessarily imply that there are still planes in the air. A little more information, Canada has now shut all of its airports down, but it will leave the airports open to allow incoming planes that were bound for the U.S. and are now prohibited from landing at U.S. airports to divert into Canada. But otherwise, Canada is allowing no takeoffs, and it's not taking inbound flights from any other place other than planes that were bound for the U.S.
Well, now we get word from American Airlines, Bob, just stay with us here for a moment, that it had 2 aircraft in this tragedy. Flight 11, a Boeing 767 with 81 passengers and 9 flight attendants and 2 pilots. Flight 77, they're saying, a Boeing 757, operating from Washington Dulles to L.A. with 58 passengers, 4 flight attendants, and 2 pilots. That's from Al Henkel, who's one of our guys in the Dallas area, from American Airlines.
Yes, so now we know the identity of 2 of the flights involved in today's incidents. That leaves at least 1 more, and if the report of the crash in Pittsburgh is accurate, that leaves 2 more that we don't have identified yet, but it gives us those 2 that you mentioned.
Well, it could have been both these planes could have been into the Twin Trade Towers, because it was plainly there were 2 airliners that went into the Twin Trade Towers up here, as we saw on the videotape of the crash.
Okay, they say there's a bomb in the school here. I was told by firefighters.
Pat Dawson, let's go to you in Lower Manhattan. You have a report of another bomb.
All right, Tom, we've just been told we're being evacuated. You can see all the emergency workers walking north on the West Side Highway in New York. We've been told by firefighters here that there is a report of a bomb in this building. This is a school, a high school right here. And as you can see, they're moving everybody away from this building. They've said that there's a bomb in the building. They are evacuating us north now. That is according to firefighters on the scene. And we're going to move out of here right now just to keep ourselves safe. So we're going to start walking north ourselves. But that's what we're being told by New York City firefighters here, that there were reports of a bomb in that high school right there. It's called Stuyvesant High School. And so we are walking north to get out of the way. You can see just to my left here, these are even the ambulances which were down there are being moved north. The firefighters are being moved north. everybody is being moved north. We're being asked by the police now to go north and get out of the way. Officer, do you have any idea of what the problem
There's
is?
a report of a secondary device possibly in the area of this school, so they're going to move everybody back as a precaution.
Secondary device meaning a bomb?
Possibly.
Okay, and where did that report come from? Was it called in?
It came in over our radios, and it's reported through our supervisors on down, so we're pulling everybody back.
And that's in the Stuyvesant High School right there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Officer McQuaid.
Pat,
That's
school has
Officer
been
McQuaid of New York City
evacuated?
Emergency Service.
Pat, that school has been
sorry,
evacuated?
Yeah, well, I don't think there was anyone in the school, Katie, this morning. At this point, I think everybody had been evacuated from here probably when the first events took place early this morning, just because of the fact that it's so close to the World Trade Center. Most of these buildings around here have been evacuated, so I would imagine, I never saw any kids going into that school this morning, so I'm going to presume that they never even allowed them to get to school this morning, and that anywhere that were here at 8:45 were probably moved out almost within moments after the crash took place, because it literally is only about 10 blocks north of here, and I haven't seen any students coming in or out.
All right, Pat Dawson, thank you very much. The big story, obviously, that is still to be resolved is how many planes were hijacked. We now have a report that there could have been as many as 4 of them. We know that 2 planes were involved here at the Twin Trade Towers. There's a report of a plane down north of Pittsburgh. Another kind of plane went into the Pentagon, but there could still be planes in the air that are under the control of hijackers. We don't know for sure what flights they are or where they're headed. There are some unconfirmed reports of them. We can only tell you that American 11 and American 77 have been identified by American Airlines as 2 of the planes that were involved in the incidents today.
And the hijackings are scattered somewhat around a fairly wide area, and we just have to remember that 2 of these planes did arrive at the World Trade Center within 18 or 20 minutes of each other, just to, again, point out the coordination of this attack. We're going to go down to NBC's Tim Russert, who is standing by with more information. Tim? Tim? Apparently Tim can't hear us.
All right, obviously people are scrambling to get as much information. I think we do now
Tim,
have
do you
Tim's
hear us?
audio. Tim?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please give us your information.
I've been just speaking to the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Porter Goss, and we're trying to get him on the telephone here and continue our conversation on the...
This is a special report from News Channel 4.
And good morning once again. I'm Jane Hansen with Glenn Walker in the News Center, News Channel 4 studios, and we want to bring you up to date on the situation right here in New York City. So we are interrupting the network for just a short period of time to tell you the latest on what's gone on here.
Well, as one distressed witness described it, a piece of America went down today. An unprecedented terrorist attack, as you have seen all morning, on New York City, the nation's capital. We know of at least 4 planes that have been hijacked. It all started a little before 9 o'clock this morning. A commercial airliner, probably a small plane, slammed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center. You see the result of that right there. And while we were watching this scene, approximately 18 minutes later, a second commercial airliner, you see it coming from the top of the right-hand corner of your screen, came down, swooped down between the 2 towers and slammed into the second tower, a huge ball of fire. You see it right there. And that was just the beginning of a sequence of events that, from what we can tell, has turned out very tragic.
We had the mayor a short time ago
Yes.
say, quote, "I sense a horrendous number of lives have been lost." Obviously, rescue workers raced to the scene, firefighters attempting to put out those blazes. They didn't have much luck because, as you will shortly see, it was about an hour and a half after the first attack that the first of the towers collapsed. A horrendous and horrific sight for all of us to witness here in New York City.
There you see that happening right now. And we've been told witnesses have actually described this scene as raining bodies, people jumping from the building, people thrown from the building by the explosions. Just a horrific scene downtown. We believe the number of people working in the 2 towers is about 50,000. How many of those survived this? We have no idea how many were actually at work at the time of the explosions and the accidents.
Rescue workers, we were told, worked as fast as they could to get people out of the lower parts of those towers
This
in
is the
between the
second
time
tower.
of the fire and the collapse. And here you see the second collapse. There was about an hour and a half between the first plane and the first collapse, and then the second one happened probably about 15 or 20 minutes
Now,
later.
they may have evacuated the area, but we understand the firefighters were there trying to put the fire out. There were armed guards around the World Trade Center. We do not know how many of them actually survived this. As you see, these are firefighters that were around the buildings when it collapsed. Fortunately, they were able to dig themselves out, but obviously they are in shock, distress. Witnesses who have seen this It's just pandemonium downtown, and right now, let's go down to Lower Manhattan. Gabe Pressman is standing by live. Gabe?
Hello, Gabe. Can you hear us?
Yeah, is that Jane?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Gabe, well, you're in Lower Manhattan. What are you witnessing right now?
Well, people down here, by the hundreds and by the thousands, I'd say. I'm at the corner of Leonard and West Broadway. At first they were stunned. Now they are angry. Basically bewildered by the sight they saw of this building burning. I'm using, because my cell phone's not working, and none of them apparently is, I'm using a telephone in a diner, and the manager of the diner is Ted Karunas. What did you see, and what are your feelings right now, Mr. Karunas?
I watched the second building collapse, and it just brought tears to my eyes. I'm in utter shock. I'm walking around numb. This is unbelievable. I thought I saw the sight of a lifetime when I saw the second fireball explode into the building, but watching both Twin Towers fall down. I mean, I was born and raised in New York City, and to see them fall like that, I guess it's time to go to war. I mean, just nothing but anger, fear, and just rage going through me right now.
You just can't contain your emotions.
It's crazy. 1 second you feel like you're going to cry and you're shaking like a leaf, and the next second you wish there was someone in front of you that you could physically harm because of this. So it's very intense.
There is an endless stream of traffic, of ambulances going by this spot south on West Broadway. Incredible number of ambulances. I counted 10 in less than a minute. There's a young man here sitting at the counter in the diner. What happened to you?
I was coming out of the subway for a graduation pictures day, and I saw everyone looking. I went. A woman was on the ground. I just got my Red Cross certification, so I started helping her.
Where was that?
That was right on the corner of Chambers and I don't know whatever street this is.
What about you? I understand your sister is safe. Is that right?
She is. Thank God. She works at 2 World Trade, but she heard on the news, and her husband advised her not to go to work. So thank God she's okay.
You thought for a while that she was in the building?
We did. She was in the building last time, the explosion, so thank God she wasn't. My name is Cheryl Charles White.
And you're from what borough?
I'm from Brooklyn. I was on my way to work. The train got diverted. It skipped Fulton Street. We got up at Park Place. There was smoke. We had to evacuate, and the police ushered us forward. And you're seeing people covered with soot. There was this woman. She had no shoes on. Her feet were bleeding. It was just amazing.
What are your feelings about the people who did this?
They're animals. I just can't believe it. It's just unbelievable. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Well planned.
Another lady here.
Incidentally, her sister, and by God's grace, we're together. I work for the Bank of New York in a few blocks away, and my name is Sandra.
Thank you. Okay, so that's some of the feelings and the statements here by people who've been involved in this. Incidentally, I tried to get down here, down to the World Trade Center on a subway, and I was stuck for about 45 minutes, and finally they let us out at 23rd Street. In any event, that's the story from here, Jane, and I don't know who's sitting with you at the moment.
It's Glenn and Jim Rosenfield. Thank you very much, Gabe.
Yes.
We should also point out that they are trying to assess when they can physically get into the ruins of those 2 buildings to see if there are people trapped, because we don't know if that is part of the circumstances right now.
Some 50,000 people on a normal day would be working in those 2 towers. We did hear on NBC, they estimated today perhaps as many as 20,000 people working in those 2 buildings.
This has obviously created some chaos as far as transportation goes. A lot of people need to get back to their loved ones.
Boy, it sure
They
has.
want to get out of town.
Bear with us here. We do have a lot of information, and it is changing by the minute. But this is what we know about some of the transportation issues, some of the hospitals involved. Let's start with the hospitals. We know victims have been taken to St. Vincent's Hospital. We heard from Melissa Russo just a little while ago when we were on the air earlier. We also know victims have been taken to NYU downtown. That hospital is telling us hundreds of victims are being taken there and are seeking treatment at NYU downtown. A 3rd hospital, Bellevue Hospital, will also be expecting to treat patients. We should also mention, it probably is obvious, but this is a major primary day here in New York City. The primary has been canceled, so it goes without saying that will be rescheduled. Speaking of the hospitals, we want to go to NYU Hospital right now, and Leonard Aubrey has an update for us from the scene there. Mr. Aubrey, what can you tell us?
Well, as you may know, we are several blocks
away from the World Trade Center. And I think, as you just had in your report, we have seen hundreds of patients right now. We have about 20 to 30 what I would call very serious cases, and we had 3 patients, unfortunately, who passed away upon arrival at the hospital. So that's where we are right now, and we're very well set up to take patients as they, or if they continue to come in through the day. Hello?
Can you hear us? What kind of injuries are you seeing? Burns, lacerations, can you tell us?
Well, a lot of that, and a lot of smoke inhalation, a lot of smoke problems. We're using a lot of oxygen tanks and so on to give people oxygen. And of course, as you mentioned, lacerations, a number of more serious orthopedic injuries, broken bones, and so on. And we have had a couple of cases which we've had to transfer. One was a significant burn, which was transferred up to the Cornell burn unit, and the second neurosurgical case, which was transferred up to NYU Medical Center in Midtown.
You still getting a steady stream of ambulances to the hospital?
Yes, at the point, yes. Yes, so I can't give you exact numbers because they change quite frequently.
But you do have, you mentioned 130 people with what you would call serious injuries.
No, we had over 100 in the hundreds of minor injuries. We had 30 people, roughly 30 people with what we call red. We have a code here, green, yellow, red, the red being the most serious. And we had 30 of those, plus an additional 3 patients passed away upon arrival at the hospital.
Mr. Aubrey, we thank you very much, and obviously we will be talking back with you later this morning. Those are the first 3 confirmed dead that we've had that have gone into the hospital here. But we have a fax here from American Airlines which suggests that they've lost an awful lot of people in aircraft today, and it said that it lost 2 aircraft in tragic incidents, and this Flight 11, which is the one we believe smashed into one of the World Trade Center towers.
The second crash.
It was en route from Boston to Los Angeles. It had 81 passengers on board, 9 flight attendants, and 2 pilots. So obviously those will be added to the casualty list that we are beginning to hear about here in New York City.
And of course, 2 other planes from United Airlines were also hijacked. One of those going from Newark to San Francisco, that is the plane that crashed in western Pennsylvania. And we just have it coming over wires, another plane crash.
We are getting a confirmation now that it was a flight, one of the other aircraft that crashed was the one you were just talking about, the one from...
Okay, we have a confirmation on that. All right, right now, let's get another report from a hospital. Melissa Russo, our Government Affairs reporter, is standing by. I believe it's St. Vincent's Hospital, Melissa?
Yes, Glenn. We just had a briefing from hospital officials here at St. Vincent's. They are now reporting more than 112 injured patients have been brought into St. Vincent's. And their message today is that they're in desperate need of blood. You have literally hundreds of people lining up on 7th Avenue to donate blood. A hospital official told me earlier that they're very worried about the blood supply of the city hospitals being completely tapped out. And so they're asking people to donate blood. They're seeing injuries ranging from broken bones to burns to smoke inhalation. I don't know if you've been able to see any of the pictures yet, but the people being brought out of the ambulances are absolutely covered in soot, concrete, debris. You open the doors of the ambulance to bring these people out, and you just see the dust fly in the air. It's just unbelievable. They're literally covered in this grayish-colored dust. At least 2 people in the hospital at St. Vincent's have been put into the operating room. That number may have gone up by now. They have triage teams on site, more than 200 doctors working. In addition, they've been transporting doctors from St. Vincent's Hospital down to the scene of Lower Manhattan to work on scene. They have been bringing in additional shipments of hospital supplies. I saw one truck being unloaded about an hour ago with syringes, additional IV materials, and that trauma center, that makeshift trauma center that I told you about over an hour ago on 7th Avenue is still in place. At this point, they appear to be out of wheelchairs. They're using office chairs covered in sheets to transport patients. They do have some locations where people can go to donate blood. I guess one of the questions will be whether people will be able to reach those locations. On Staten Island, they're asking people able to donate blood to go to St. Vincent's Hospital. In Queens, there are 3 hospitals where people can donate blood if you're in proximity of that hospital: St. Joseph's, St. John's, and Mary Immaculate Hospitals. In Brooklyn, St. Mary's Hospital, and here in Manhattan, St. Vincent's and St. Clair's. Desperately in need of blood this morning.
Can you repeat those just one more time, Melissa, because that's
sure
really
can.
important information and it went by quickly.
I sure can. On Staten Island, St. Vincent's Hospital. In Queens, if you're within proximity of St. Joseph's, St. John's, or Mary Immaculate Hospitals, you can go there to donate blood. If you're in Brooklyn, St. Mary's Hospital. Here in Manhattan, St. Clair's and St. Vincent's. One more thing I should mention, Edward Cardinal Egan is here on the scene in blue hospital garb, and he just spoke as well with a message for New Yorkers. He invited New Yorkers to join in prayer. He said that this is a tragedy that this great city can handle. He said he's amazed at the goodness of firefighters and hospital personnel who are willing to do everything to save life at this moment. And he asked the Lord to bless us at this moment. Edward Cardinal Egan on the scene here at St. Vincent's, clearly trying to help calm the city in the wake of this tragedy. On 7th Avenue, police are working very hard to move the crowd along. People just stop and gaze down 7th Avenue, where there used to be a perfect view of the World Trade Center, the 2 towers. I was here earlier when those buildings collapsed, and there was just absolute panic here on 7th Avenue outside the hospital. People just staring at what used to be the Twin Towers and had now turned into a cloud of smoke, and people are just in shock here.
And a blood shortage, as Melissa mentioned, and that's certainly, if anybody does feel the need to get out, then that is certainly something that would be very important, I would think, at this time.
Especially if you're anywhere close to one of those hospitals.
Absolutely.
There is something that has just come across from the Associated Press, which says a police official in New York says the number of casualties from today's attack on the World Trade Center could be in the thousands. And again, we have only begun to hear the reports of people who have been injured and who have been killed in this attack.
A lot of loved ones worried about children in schools. And in Lower Manhattan, there are 3 schools where youngsters are being walked to another location, to another school, just to be safe. I'll give you those 3 schools that are involved. PS 89, youngsters are being walked to PS 41. That's PS 89, where the youngsters are being walked to PS 41. PS 234, the youngsters also being taken to PS 41. And PS 150, youngsters are being taken to PS 3. We had heard earlier that several schools were being used as triage centers, among them Stuyvesant High School, but as we saw earlier on our network, it appeared that Stuyvesant High School was being evacuated because of concerns about yet another bomb. So that's the latest we have on the school situation.
Once again, we should also tell people that you simply cannot come into this city right now by car, by train, by subway, by bus, and it is best that you stay put exactly where you are. Now, of course, that also means that a lot of people who had already come into the city for work today, there's not a lot of work going on, I can assume, which means that they probably are trying to leave the city, and that in itself can be a little difficult.
I do know that New Jersey Transit, which, as you mentioned, has suspended inbound service, but they are, we are told, putting extra trains to get the folks out of Manhattan.
Okay.
That's New Jersey Transit. Long Island Railroad has suspended service in both directions, from Jamaica to Penn Station and from Jamaica to Flatbush. Bus service, there isn't any, as you would imagine, south of 14th Street, and they are evaluating service for the rest of the city and to other boroughs right now as we speak.
Okay, right now, let's go back to NBC News with national coverage of this story, which, of course, is breaking not only in New York, but also in Washington and around the rest of the country.
We will be back in a
bit. Steel and concrete that came cascading down as well and hit other places.
I imagine the collateral damage was enormous, but we were probably, I'd say, 2 or 3 blocks away in a building where we holed up for a time until we were fairly comfortable that it was safe to come out. It was truly the most intense and frightening experience I've ever had in my life. It was literally pitch black on the streets, and people were, obviously inhaling a great deal of this material as well, so there are many folks who are having difficulty breathing and were wearing facial masks as well.
Well, we're happy you're all
All
right.
right, we have United Airlines confirms that United Flight 175 from Boston to Los Angeles is down as well. No details yet. It's confirmed that Flight 93, we believe from Newark to San Francisco, is down. No details yet. That's the one that we think went down in the Pittsburgh area. I wish that we could be more specific. The information is, as you might expect, pretty chaotic, but there have been at least 4 airliners that have been hijacked today.
And Tom, there's going to be an awful lot of scrutiny on the security in Boston at Logan Airport because it now appears that 2 of these flights originated there, and somehow someone managed to get on these planes and hijack them.
Well, this is an event, Ron. We're happy to see you. And
thank you. You have no idea how happy I am to be here.
Yeah, it is a relief. But then you think about the experiences of thousands of other people who are down there in the epicenter of all that, and were there when it occurred. Our hearts go out to them. We don't know what the numbers are yet.
And you hear about Cardinal Egan delivering last rites outside of St. Vincent's Hospital.
And the magnitude of this will go on for some time. This is not just a national tragedy, but this is a national security event of an untold magnitude that this country is going to have to deal with. The president's coming back, and we are at war, in effect, here. This country has suffered a devastating attack that will cost us in the sense of in loss of life. It will also cost us in terms of our psychological security that we have in this country. We're going to have to revisit a lot of our freedoms as a result of this kind of an attack. And then, of course, there's the whole question of retaliation.
This is an
Who is responsible and what do we do?
Tom, this is an upsetting wire that just came across the transom from the West Bank. It says thousands of Palestinians celebrated Tuesday's terror attacks in the United States, chanting God is great and distributing candy to passers-by, even as their leader, Yasser Arafat, said he was horrified. The U.S. government has become increasingly unpopular in the West Bank and Gaza Strip in the past year of Israeli-Palestinian fighting, with many Palestinians accusing Washington of siding with Israel.
For those of you who think that events in far-off places like the Middle East or in Afghanistan or in the subcontinent or in places in Asia have no effect on us, this is the answer today. This place remains an enormous target in the eyes of a lot of people, and we are so vulnerable because of all those things that make us so great, our freedoms and our sense of security that we have. But America has been changed today by all of this.
We want to go and find out more about what's being done for those who were injured in these attacks. Leslie Van Sant is with the American Red Cross. I believe she's joining us from Washington. Ms. Van Sant, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Matt.
Tell me what kind of resources you have available to you to pour into these areas where, obviously, in Lower Manhattan and in Washington, D.C. and outside Pittsburgh.
Well, our chapters on the area, our local disaster volunteers, they are, of course, the first people on the scene and responding. Unfortunately, probably now some of them are also victimized by the event. We're also mobilizing 80,000 units of blood to transfer to the regions as needed, and, taking guidance from emergency management personnel on what assistance we can provide to them to make this, response go smoothly.
Is there anything that, I know it's early after this has happened, but is there anything you can think of that people might be able to help you out with in terms of donating certain things? You mentioned blood and those things.
Well, we're asking people who are in other parts of the country who are blood donors or maybe not blood donors, maybe they could call and schedule an appointment so we can make sure that the supply stays ready. Our disaster volunteers, our mental health volunteers and health volunteers are going to be responding. This will, as Tom mentioned earlier, this is going to be a long, long response. The emotional trauma, the emotional impact is going to be felt weeks, months into the future, even years. So we're going to be working very hard at this for a long time.
All right, Leslie Van Sant with the American Red Cross. Ms. Van Sant, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Let's go now to Kathleen Zici of New York University Hospital, which is about 5 minutes away from the World Trade Center, where many of the victims have been brought. Kathleen, I know we spoke to you about an hour or so ago. Can you tell me what's going on in the hospital now? Kath. Okay, apparently we're having some problems with Kathleen, and I'm sure it's as chaotic there as it was at St. Vincent's, where we heard from Bob Bazell moments ago that There was a line with Cardinal Egan outside delivering last rites to some of the dead who were brought to the hospital, so we'll try to touch base with Kathleen in just a moment. But first we want to go to Andrea Mitchell once again in Washington. Andrea?
I've been told that the State Department evacuation, Katie, was precautionary only. There was no car bomb as had at least been reported or rumored, not here on NBC. But in any case, that was precautionary only. There are still some officials there. They are now being redeployed to another location in Virginia. The CIA is still operational. Intelligence officials are still meeting at Langley, but those officials have also evacuated the non-essential employees. The current working theory, as you have been reporting and speculating, is that there is only one terror organization in this world that could coordinate this kind of event, and that would be something operated by Osama bin Laden. Intelligence officials say he is in Afghanistan, where he has been protected by the Taliban, and as we know, the United States has warned the Taliban government of Afghanistan that if there were any attack against the United States, that they would hold Afghanistan responsible, so that we most likely will expect retaliation, military retaliation. But I think right now the full focus of the U.S. government is on finding out how many other possible targets there might be, how many vulnerabilities there might be, making sure that there is no chemical or biological element out there. I spoke to a former Secretary of Defense, Bill Cohn, and others who had been part of the anti-terror operation planning, and they say that those are the first lines of defense to make sure that there is not some other event, unexpected, as this obviously was, that could make Americans vulnerable. Obviously, this is the largest intelligence failure since Pearl Harbor.
All right, Andrea Mitchell. Andrea, thank you. We're going to check in again right now with Kathleen Dietschy of New York University Hospital. Kathleen, tell me what the scene is like at your hospital.
Well, we're at NYU Downtown Hospital in Lower Manhattan, and we have had a steady stream of patients coming through the door since the first explosion occurred some hours ago. We have information at this point on 3+ fatalities, plus because there may be additional fatalities that I have not yet been informed of. We have had a severe burn case. One individual is an amputee, a serious neurosurgical injury, a whole range of injuries from both debris, smoke inhalation, respiratory issues related to smoke and debris from the collapse of the two buildings.
So how many medical personnel, Kathleen, do you have working there at NYU Hospital?
We have a medical staff of 500 plus physicians. The entire medical staff has been mobilized, as has the nursing staff, and they are working as hard as it's possible to work.
And tell me again, Kathleen, I know it's hard to estimate how many people you've seen so far?
It's in the hundreds. Our entire cafeteria has been transformed to a triage area, and it is wall-to-wall people at the present time.
All right, Kathleen, thank you very much for that update. I'm sure we'll be checking back with you a bit later on, and thank you very much.
Katie, let's go now to NBC's Bob Hager. And Bob, I think it's important that we recount. A short while ago, we were talking about 4 planes that were unaccounted for. It seems now we know what happened to all those 4 planes, isn't it?
That's it. There's no plane at the moment that we know of that's outstanding that's unaccounted for. And now NTSB is able to match the particular flights to the particular accidents or acts of terrorism. So the 2 planes that hit the World Trade Center were both takeoffs from Boston, one belonging to American Airlines, and it had been bound for Los Angeles. The other belonging to United Airlines, it too was bound for Los Angeles. Those are the 2 planes, the American airliner first and then the United plane, that went into the World Trade Center. The other 2 flights, the one that went into the Pentagon was an American Airlines flight bound from Washington's Dulles Airport to Los Angeles, and the plane that's down southeast of Pittsburgh is a United flight. It had been bound from Newark to San Francisco. I heard one report that it was Newark via Washington National to San Francisco, but I'm not sure of that. Let me tell you the flight numbers. The Boston takeoffs were American Airlines Flight 10. It had 92 aboard. That's one of the ones that hit the World Trade Center.
Bob, let me just interrupt you there for a second, because we've been reporting all morning that it was American Airlines Flight 11.
You know, I'm mistaken. You're right. It's 11. American Flight 11. Thank you very much, with 92 aboard. And then The United Airlines that left from Boston and hit the other World Trade Center tower was United's 175. I don't have a figure on how many on board it. The flight that went into the Pentagon was American Airlines Flight 77, bound Washington Dulles to Los Angeles. There were 64 people aboard it. And the United Airlines flight that went down south of Pittsburgh was United's Flight 93, and there's no number on the number of passengers on it. But again, you have 4 flights known to have been hijacked, known to have crashed, and no flights at the moment that are outstanding that we know of.
Bob, that the crash that you just mentioned near Pittsburgh, I just want to say that that is a United flight that was en route from Newark to San Francisco. Is that accurate?
That's what I have, and I've heard it 2 ways. It's Newark to San Francisco. I heard one report that there was an intermittent stop that it was to make at Washington's Reagan National, but that's not confirmed, so it might be erroneous.
Yeah, United is now confirming that, apparently, Robert. We also have a report from the mayor of Cleveland, Michael White, saying that a Boeing 767 out of Boston made an emergency landing at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport because of concerns it may have a bomb on board, but no confirmation of
We
that.
also have, just because I have a personal friend who was flying from Kennedy to Los Angeles this morning, that plane was diverted to Kansas City. So apparently many planes that were en route to certain locations have made special emergency landings in the wake of this, and because of concerns that there may be more problems aboard more airplanes.
And what happens, unfortunately, in situations like this, if the terrorists themselves don't call in to say that there's a bomb on board, you have the twisted minds of other people who call in and say, well, by the way, there's a bomb on board that flight. So it is chaos in the skies for those flights that were already in the air. Other flights have been grounded. This country has been immobilized in terms of where its attention now is focused on New York City and Washington, D.C., the tragedies in Pittsburgh as well. No air travel, no financial markets. All national monuments are being evacuated. The president has been rushed back to Washington, D.C. The Pentagon has been attacked by an airliner, in effect, and on Capitol Hill, code red. The Speaker of the House was taken to a very secure area because he's third in line succession to the President of the United States. We are, as we have been saying this morning, in a state of war with terrorism.
And as a result, the Army has been placed at ThreatCon Delta. That means that armed personnel will be guarding U.S. installations, not only here in the United States, but in other parts of the world. You're looking at the southern tip of Manhattan Island here in New York City, and for so many years we've come accustomed to seeing the World Trade Center standing there in the background behind the Empire State Building that you see in the foreground. Those 2 towers no longer stand after a terrorist attack this morning. NBC's Pat Dawson is close to the scene of that attack. Pat? Pat,
Matt,
can you hear me?
if we are, yes, I can, Matt. If there is a war against terrorism that started, rather ongoing right now, it started here at about 8:45 this morning. As you described, a big hole in the skyline at the southern end, the southern tip of Manhattan Island, where the 2 World Trade Center towers have stood for the last 25 years, 110 stories high. They are no longer there. Just moments ago, I spoke to the chief of safety for the New York City Fire Department, who was obviously one of the first people here on the scene after those 2 planes were crashed into the side, we assume, of the World Trade Center towers, which used to be behind me over there. Chief Albert Turry told me that he was here just literally 10 or 15 minutes after the events that took place this morning. That is the first crash. He said that at one point he had roughly 10 alarms. That would equate to roughly 200 to 225 New York City firefighters who were in the building. This was after the crash, trying to rescue civilians who were in there. Now, earlier this morning on the Today Show, we spoke to the director of the World Trade Center. He said that at that hour of the morning, you could have upwards of 10,000 people in each of those towers. That would be 20,000 people total in each tower. The chief of safety of the Fire Department of New York City told me that shortly after 9 o'clock, he had roughly 10 alarms, roughly 200 men in the building trying to effect rescues of some of those civilians who were in there, and that basically he received word of the possibility of a secondary device, that is another bomb going off. He tried to get his men out as quickly as he could, but he said that there was another explosion which took place, and then an hour after the first hit here, with the first crash that took place, he said, there was another explosion that took place in one of the towers here. So obviously, according to his theory, he thinks that there were actually devices that were planted in the building. One of the secondary devices he thinks that took place after the initial impact was, he thinks, may have been on the plane that crashed into one of the towers. The second device he speculates, was probably planted in the building. So that's what we have been told by Albert Turry, who is the Chief of Safety for the New York City Fire Department. He told me that just moments ago. Now, we are continuing to hear explosions. Here downtown, and what we've been told by some of the fire officials is that there are some gas lines that occasionally are exploding down there, because obviously, as you can imagine, there are a lot of open gas lines down in the southern part of Manhattan where the World Trade Center towers used to be. As far as the situation right here, basically what we have are hundreds of New York City firefighters and other New York City rescue units who are massed here. There is a cordon just down there. We are not sure, to be honest, if some rescue workers have tried to go beyond that point as yet. When we spoke to the head of the Port Authority Police, that would be the organization that is in charge of the World Trade Center building itself, the Port Authority Police chief told us that they were at that point, about, I'd say 40 minutes ago, about to make a decision on whether or not it was safe to send emergency workers back in there. But the bottom line is that according to the Chief of Safety of the New York City Fire Department, he says that he probably lost a great many men in those secondary explosions, and he said that there were literally hundreds, if not thousands of people in those two towers when the explosions took place. He said everything above the 60th floor was extremely difficult to get to, as you can imagine.
Pat Dawson.
Back to you.
Pat Dawson, thanks very much. We have some videotape, I understand, that we're going to show you from the West Bank. These are Palestinian celebrations in the wake of Tuesday's terror attacks in the United States. Apparently, Palestinians took to the street chanting, "God is great." People were throwing candy, distributing candy to passers-by. The U.S. government obviously has become increasingly unpopular, particularly in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, because Palestinians feel that the U.S. government has sided with Israel. One man, Nawal Abdel Fattah, wearing the long black dress, threw sweets in the air saying, actually that's a woman, pardon me, saying she was happy because, quote, America is the head of the snake. America always stands by Israel in its war against us. Meanwhile, Yasser Arafat emerged to speak with reporters, the head of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. He said, "We are completely shocked. It's unbelievable. We completely condemn this very dangerous attack, and I convey my condolences to the American people, to the American president, and to the American administration, not only in my name, but on behalf of the Palestinian people."
And this comes on a day, Katie, in which obviously there's been a steady deterioration of the situation in the Middle East, but Shimon Peres was to meet today with Yasser Arafat in the West Bank. There has been some criticism of the Bush administration for not getting more involved in the peacemaking efforts in the Middle East in the past few weeks from within the Republican Party as well.
Because it has gotten increasingly volatile.
It has. There's been a steady escalation of violence, incursions by Israelis into Palestinian towns and declaring martial law and then pulling back. And everyone thought that the bomb was ticking in the Middle East. No one expected anything of these kinds of consequences to be visited upon this country in this horrific way that we have been witness to today. It is one more example, as we have been saying this morning, of events in far-off places that have such an enormous impact here, because the United States is, in the eyes of so many people who are opposed to our system of government and our alliances, is the devil incarnate. And today this is a very sophisticated, very cold-blooded, very widespread attack carried out with the most chilling kind of efficiency on several of the great nerve centers of our system of government and our way of life.
And we're talking about perhaps thousands of casualties. What's one thing that's very frustrating about reporting this story is we know that many, many people were inevitably very seriously hurt or killed in these explosions. We have 4 aircraft full of people obviously, that were involved in these incidents, and an untold number of people who were in the World Trade Center at the time, in the surrounding area, and of course those individuals at the Pentagon as well.
And you can only hope that in the time between the actual collision, the planes hitting the towers, and the time it took for those buildings to collapse, that large numbers of people were able to get down the stairs. You'd have to assume that power in the building was probably disrupted. Elevators may not have been usable, that they were able to get down smoke-filled stairways to safety before both of those towers collapsed.
And as Pat Dawson just said, though, from the 60th floor up, it was very, very, very difficult. And there are 110 floors in the Twin Towers each in the World Trade Center. So you're talking about 50 floors, if his estimate is correct, of people. Now, the first explosion did occur at 8:42 in the morning. Some people might not have been at work yet, but many people here in New York, a workaholic town, get to work early, particularly those who are watching the markets, the overseas markets, and this is the financial center of the United States and, of course, of New York City as well.
Yeah, we have hesitated to use specific numbers, but Mayor Giuliani is saying it's a horrendous number of lives lost, and it could be in the thousands.
We want to go now to Ray Kelly, who's a former police commissioner here in New York.
We are going to now cut into the network coverage to bring you back here to New York City to tell you new information that we may have about the situation here. I'm Jane Hansen with Jim Rosenfield.
And good day to you all. We want to go right to Tiwa Chang, who is standing by, we are told, with Mayor Giuliani, who can give us the latest information on casualties, what we know about anyone who may have perished in this act of terrorism, as it's being called. Tiwa, are you there?
Yes, Jim, I'm here. I cannot tell you where I am because for security reasons, the mayor's office and the police department have moved the emergency center away from Lower Manhattan, evacuating the police headquarters to a degree, and they also left the emergency bunker, which is at 7 World Trade Center, right next to where the 2 Twin Towers were. I talked to the mayor directly. I rode up with his motorcade, and he said, when I asked him about the 4 planes that were in the air that were possibly filled with bombs or whatever may be the case, he said, that's not a problem. That has been taken care of. I don't know what he meant by that, but he said that is not a concern now. I also ran into the fire commissioner, Mr. Von Essen, Thomas Von Essen. I asked him how many casualties were there. He said, I know many, many firemen and police officers were in those buildings when they went down. I do not know the extent. At this point, it's believed to be many, many hundreds, at least, if not thousands of people perished. That's not confirmed. Every official I've asked, can you give me a number, says they cannot give me a number. One, because the number is so staggering, but also because at this point, they're not really sure. All they know is there were many, many people inside those buildings, especially firemen and policemen inside those buildings. We're now at a secret location. They've asked all of us not to broadcast it because they are now regrouping here to...
With Jim Dolan, and our entire Eyewitness News team is working both in the newsroom and on the streets of Manhattan to bring you the very latest. We are hampered, Roz, as you know, by communication problems. We cannot communicate because those buildings no longer exist that you see there. And there's a live shot from Newscopter 7.
Much has been made about Mayor Giuliani and what
city that's a little panicky at the moment. We have an awful lot of people who are either stuck in town, they can't get home from their office buildings. There are virtually no modes of transportation. I've been told that they're shutting off power to some buildings in Lower Manhattan now. What can he say to these people to help them
Jane,
as they try to sort?
Jane, I walked from my apartment on the west side all the way downtown, and I have to tell you, the people are calm. This reminds me very much of when I was in Beirut in a war situation. People are out walking on the street, walking away, most people walking away from downtown Manhattan, walking north, uptown, but very calmly. A lot of people standing by radios because of and televisions and stores. Some of the store people, it reminds me of the blackout situation where we've had a lot of calm and people pulling together. I have not seen any panic. I walked all the way downtown. Now, obviously, in Lower Manhattan where the explosion occurred, I'm sure there was.
Andrea Koppel is on board a flight with the Secretary of State. Andrea, what are you hearing from officials there?
Well, Aaron, Secretary Powell has been in Peru since last night. He was here to attend the Organization of American States General Assembly. Obviously, when he got the news of the attacks in the United States, his aides scrambled to prepare things for him to leave. We are now, as you say, on board his plane. We're about to take off from Lima to head back to Washington. While at the OAS General Assembly, Secretary Powell said it was a terrible tragedy that had fallen on all who believe in democracy, but he said that will never kill the spirit of the American people. He also said that America will bring those responsible to justice, Aaron. There was also a minute of silence at the Organization of American States, and Secretary Powell obviously had to abruptly change his plans. He was supposed to be leaving Peru later this afternoon to head on to Colombia for his first trip there. But obviously, the attacks in the United States have changed that, and he's headed back to Washington. Aaron?
Andrea, give me a sense of the Secretary's demeanor. I mean, we know this is a man who has been through a lot in his life, has seen a lot in his life. Did he appear shaken to you?
I would say that Secretary Powell is someone who doesn't show his emotions in that way. This is a man with 35 years of military experience, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, former National Security Advisor himself, who's seen a lot in his day. And so I would say that obviously he appeared somber, very serious, but in terms of any other emotion, I would say that he's able to keep that very close to his chest.
Andrea, thank you. Andrea Koppel, flying back with the Secretary of State from South America. Our colleague Judy Woodruff in Washington. Judy?
Aaron, we have joining us now on the phone from the Pentagon, our military affairs correspondent, Jamie McIntyre. Jamie, I understand you are inside the perimeter of where the commercial jetliner came down at the Pentagon. Well, it appears that we may have lost the phone connection with Jamie McIntyre. We're going to try to get that restored immediately. Jamie, are you there? Now we have Bob Franken, our Washington correspondent, joining us from the Pentagon. Bob, tell us what you are seeing now.
Well, what we're seeing, of course, in back of me is the smoke that's coming from the west side of the Pentagon, where, as we now know, a plane which is believed to have been a jumbo jet crashed into the Pentagon. It has left a hole. There was a collapse of that side of the building. You're seeing the smoke, of course, to my rear. We're reporting from an east side vantage point along a highway that's a major artery here. It is also a place where there has been a constant alert looking skyward, repeated concerns that another plane was heading this way up toward the Potomac. These have been concerns that have been out there for a couple of hours. None of them have been realized yet. Of course, the tragedy was that about 9:20 this morning Eastern time, that plane crashed into the west side of the Pentagon. You can see overhead frequently helicopters that are circling the area, of course, looking to provide some visual sighting in case anybody, any sort of invader, anything like that, wants to take to the air. It's interesting, these helicopters also will hover on the ground. There are any number of highways here, and they would be looking for suspicious vehicles, that type of thing. We are told there are casualties at the Pentagon. We have not been able to get an accurate figure. We are not exactly sure at the moment of the whereabouts of the Secretary of Defense, but the building has virtually been evacuated, if not totally evacuated. There is heavy security there, investigations going on as they try and find out what happened. We constantly see sirens and hear sirens and see ambulances go by, many of them from Walter Reed Military Hospital on the other side of Washington, clearly going in there to help with whatever casualties there are. We also have seen a couple of times F-16s, at least one F-16 flying overhead a couple of times. That was reported as to be the case of the Pentagon scrambling fighter jets in case another plane was heading this way. But as I said, right now, there has been no evidence of another plane coming this way. They're on full alert, of course, and trying to now recover from the severe damage that hit the other side of the building. Judy?
All right, Bob Franken, I just want to remind our viewers that the section of the Pentagon that was hit was between the 4th, 5th, and 6th corridors. This confirmed apparently a little earlier today by Wesley Clark, General Clark, a former NATO chief. He said, from what he could tell, it appears this was the Army section of the Pentagon, planning and logistics area where certainly Army leaders would have been working in their offices. I want to read for you now a statement from the Joint Chiefs of Staff, quoting, "We are outraged at this cowardly attack on the people of the United States. Our heartfelt prayers are with the victims and their families, and we stand strongly united behind the President as our Commander-in-Chief. And I want to clarify that this is a statement by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I want to clarify that this is from the leadership of the Congress. I misunderstood when I was handed this just a moment ago. And continuing, congressional leaders, we will work with the President to ensure that the full resources of the United States government are brought to bear to protect the American people and to punish the perpetrators of these unconscionable acts. May God bless America. And just quickly, before I go back to Aaron Brown in New York, hospitals in Washington dealing with the casualties from the Pentagon Washington Hospital Center, 29 patients, a blood shortage, we are being told, in Washington. So any of you who are able to get to a hospital anywhere in the Washington area, it is very possible that there is a need for blood to be donated. So we will just put that information out there as well. Aaron, now back to you in New York.
Judy, thanks. We now are being told that Los Angeles International Airport, LAX, has been evacuated. Again, this is another one of those multi-terminal airports. It's an enormous airport, and that is being evacuated. At least one of the flights, and perhaps two if memory serves me, that has gone down today was headed towards Los Angeles, one towards San Francisco. We also have a report that Disney World in Orlando has been evacuated. Someone said to me a moment ago, before the day is over, everything's going to be shut down. And that seems to be where we're headed. CNN's Richard Roth is on the streets of New York, and he can join us now. Richard, what can you tell us?
Aaron, New Yorkers think they've seen everything, but they'll say they're amazed at what has happened, stunned. Right now behind me, what normally would be the World Trade Center is no more, a huge cloud of white smoke. And right now it's like a war zone. Thousands of New Yorkers streaming north. The mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, has told everyone to get north of Canal Street. We're several miles north of it. Right now, New Yorkers are trying to get out of Manhattan. There's a ferry on the west side going to New Jersey. It's really the only access out. The mayor advising that people should take the subways. We have seen dozens of emergency vehicles, hundreds. Firemen being bussed in, decontamination vans coming in, call for blood donations. New Yorkers, their faces, their expressions, stunned, amazed right now. With us, several of those people who witnessed some of the carnage today. Tell us what you saw when you exited the subway station due to a lack of smoke. Eileen.
It was very smoky, and then we exited on Church Street out of the PATH train station. I crossed over to Church and Fulton, and I was trying to get a cell phone. I was trying to get up the block, and I turned around and saw this tremendous fire. Actually, I thought it was a bomb. I couldn't see a plane. And I saw people jumping off the building. Many, many people just jumping. And in a panic, I had my bag and my cell phone and everything, and I was trying to find a phone because the cell phone wasn't working. Everybody was screaming. Everybody was running. The cops were trying to maintain the calm. And in that haste, people were stampeding. People started screaming that there was another plane coming. I didn't see the plane, but I turned around, and the second building just exploded. And again, all the debris was flying towards us. There was a woman on the ground with her baby. People were stampeding the baby. Myself and another man threw ourselves over the baby and pushed into the building. I got up and I just ran. I ran towards City Hall, and I said, oh God, why am I running there? And then I started to run towards the water. And then I was by probably Spring Street Prince Street. I was at a payphone, and I heard the rumbling. I thought it was another bomb. I thought it was another building close to me. And then I just ran from the payphone. The man is grabbing me back, telling me to stay here, you're safe. I was like, no way, I'm getting out of here, go north. And then I ran into a shoe store because I wanted to call my husband. That's all I wanted to do was let him know I was alive because he knew I was in the World Trade. And I got my office, and they connected me to my husband, and then we heard the second fall of the World Trade Center. And I'm astonished by the bombing. I just want to make a statement that these New York policemen and firemen, God bless them, they kept us calm. They tried so hard to keep us moving north, and it was just absolute horror. It was horror.
And when you look back there at what would be the World Trade Center?
It's devastating. I can't even look back. My 6-year-old just last week asked my husband and I to take him to the observation deck, and it's gone. And you know what? Americans will persevere, and I don't think that we'll stoop to the level of these zealot terrorist pigs. And we won't kill children, I hope, and mothers. But you know what? whatever we have to do to eradicate the country or the world of this vermin, I just hope Bush will do whatever is necessary to get rid of them. And I don't know what the root or what the answer is.
All right, thank you very much. A lot of other New Yorkers here continuing the evacuation from Lower Manhattan. Back to you, Aaron.
Thank you, Richard, very much. We told you a bit ago that the border, the U.S.-Mexican border, was at a high state of alert, had been essentially closed down, shut down. We're now told that the U.S.-Canada border is also in a high state of alert. So essentially what officials are trying to do is seal off the country. So if anyone is either trying to get in or get out, it's going to be a whole lot harder to do that. But what is possible and what is imaginable, I guess, changes some on a day like this. Jerry Howard, the former head of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency here in New York, and he joins us. As you look out, what do you see?
Well, this is absolutely devastating. An incident like this will tax every bit of resource in New York City, particularly since so many of the police officers and firefighters on the scene were injured.
Let me stop you for a second. I want to talk specifically about what you suspect is happening, but I want to go to L.A. first. Frank Buckley is in Los Angeles with us. Frank, what can you tell us about what's going on there?
Aaron, we just saw what appeared to be the worst possible situation. The last thing that we want to show you, in fact, people arriving here at the airport, apparently friends or family members of some of the victims of at least one of the flights. 3 flights were bound for Los Angeles, and they are not arriving here, obviously. Now friends and family are beginning to trickle in. We haven't seen any until this moment, 2 people just arriving here at the airport. We can tell you that just within the last 15 minutes also, this terminal they have begun a process of evacuating this terminal, and in fact all of Los Angeles airport is being evacuated now, we are told, by airport police, who we just spoke to just a few minutes ago. I'd like to let you hear from Lieutenant Howard Whitehead of the Los Angeles Airport Police as to the status here at LAX.
Because we work with other agencies who are conducting closures outside of the airport, I can't get information right now.
3 flights were bound for Los Angeles that appear to have been involved today. What accommodations are being made for the friends and family of passengers?
That's being handled by the airlines. They're having a meeting now concerning that, so that information has to get from the airlines.
So officially, what are you starting at this point?
We're starting a total evacuation of the airport.
Will that include both workers and passengers?
Only key employees will remain at the airport.
This is the entire airport that will be evacuated?
Yes, ma'am.
Why the evacuation?
Because the evacuation has been ordered. I can't tell you why, but that's how it stands now.
Is there a threat to the airport?
It's precautionary at this point.
Have you ever seen anything like this before in Los Angeles?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And what is going to be your role, the police department's role in this? What are you doing?
We're protecting the public. That's what our job is.
Will roads in and out of the airport be closed as well? Will people be able to get into the airport?
Right now, this thing is fluid. We're working as we go with the changes. So I couldn't give you a definite on anything right now.
How many police officers more or less
Thanks very much.
here in the airport on a regular day?
Other agencies involved, I couldn't give you an exact figure.
Right now there are other agencies?
Yes, ma'am. That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
What's your name?
My name is Lieutenant Whitehead.
So this is what's your first name?
That was Lieutenant Howard Whitehead of the LAX Police telling us again that just within the last 15 or 20 minutes an order has come down, a command decision to evacuate the terminals at LAX. Up until this point, of course, flights were not being allowed in or out. Now they are evacuating all the terminals except for key personnel. Also here with me now is Lieutenant Colonel Al Van Cleef of the Salvation Army. You have the very difficult task of helping to coordinate the grief counseling. Can you tell me about the accommodations that are being made for family members of Flight 11, 77, and 175?
We have 6 grief counselors on site now, 2 of the teams ready. We're waiting word now from American Airlines. They are diligently working on the plans as far as a private location where the family will be received. As soon as we're aware of that, then they will make contact with us so our counselors can proceed to where family members will be arriving. We've done the same thing here in Los Angeles as well as San Francisco and Washington, D.C.
Very difficult day for you, sir. Thanks very much
painful.
for joining us. That is the latest from Los Angeles. Aaron, back to you.
Frank, thank you. Frank Buckley in Los Angeles. We are in the midst of extraordinary national tragedy, attacks in Washington and New York, attacks on airliners. the dimensions of which are not yet clear, but what is clear is that this is a day unlike any other. The worst fears of officials around the country, security, intelligence, military officials, political leaders, worst fears being realized, being played out in New York and Washington, 80 miles outside of Pittsburgh where a plane went down. Other planes have crashed. We don't know the circumstances precisely. We now have a report perhaps of another building here in New York that has collapsed. CNN producer Rose Arce is on the phone. Rose, what can you tell us?
Yes, there's another building very close to the World Trade Center that was hit by debris some time ago, and it appears to be on the verge of collapse. Also, that enormous plume of smoke that you see that's surrounding the building, there are suspicions that it's not all smoke, but that there is a gas leak within that smoke. And that has caused a tremendous amount of panic in this area. The police have been saying that they're now evacuating all of lower Manhattan, and you can see people moving north in a flood through these streets. They're just filled with ash. You know, as you walk through the ash, you can see debris from inside the World Trade Center itself, a very, very eerie scene, pieces of paper from people's desks, office supplies, many, many blocks from the site of the actual explosion, where they now are fearing that there may be yet another explosion because of this potential gas leak.
Rose, thank you. Rose Arce, who's on the streets of Manhattan. Back to Jerry Hauer, who who ran the mayor's emergency response team, and I'm not sure I got the title right, but the essence is correct. When you all, after the '93 attack on the building, and you sat down and tried to redo a plan, which I assume happened, did you anticipate anything of this magnitude?
Well, we have plans in place in New York City for massive incidents, but an incident like this is very difficult to plan for, just because of the number of people that have been the number of responders that have been injured. There are
the responders, we mean police, fire,
EMS,
rescue, correct.
Right. There are literally hundreds of people coming from New Jersey. As you heard from the governor early, the National Guard will be activated to help with law enforcement to help seal the area. I know that FEMA will be activating their search and rescue teams to assist with going through the debris. This is going to be a long-term operation. It is going to be a very difficult one because, as you heard earlier, there's still a gas leak in the building which is fueling this fire. And until the gas is turned off, that fire could burn for some time.
Stay with us, Jerry. Back to Washington, CNN Judy Woodruff. Judy, you have more here. What can you tell us?
Well, Aaron, we are monitoring, of course, statements from around the globe, and we've just, in the last few minutes, been able to get a statement from the Taliban ambassador to Pakistan. The Taliban, of course, being the religious organization that is a party controlling the government in Afghanistan. The name Mullah Abdul Salam Zaif said in reaction to the news of these terror attacks in the United States, and I am quoting, "We want to tell the American children that Afghanistan feels your pain, and we hope that the courts find justice." Now, this statement, again, made by a Taliban ambassador to Pakistan, his name, Mullah Abdul Salam Zaif, he made it at a news conference in Islamabad. And I would just add that we're told that at the top of the hour, which would be perhaps 1 o'clock Eastern time, we're expecting a news conference live from Kabul, Afghanistan. That is the capital of Afghanistan, the Taliban being the controlling religious party in that country, Afghanistan being the country where we have every reason to believe Osama bin Laden, the leader of a huge terrorist network, continues to live in hiding. The Taliban has denied his presence there from time to time, but it is believed by those who follow the activities of his organization that he is in Afghanistan. So we will, of course, be watching that. Let me just, all right, Aaron, I want to go back to you now in New York.
Thank you, Judy. We have on the phone with us New York's Mayor, Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Mayor, give us your best piece of information as the situation right now.
The situation right now is a massive rescue effort that's going on right now. We're trying to evacuate thousands and thousands of people. We have as many of our police and fire personnel as we have down in the southern part of Manhattan, evacuating people, trying to save as many lives as possible. We've been in communication with Governor Pataki, who's gotten the National Guard ready, and they're going to come in and relieve us a little bit later in the day. And we've spoken to the White House, and the urban search and rescue teams will come here also to assist us. But right now, it's the New York City Police and Fire, EMS, that are down there trying to evacuate as many people as we possibly can. And we've asked everyone to leave Lower Manhattan if they can on their own, so that it relieves our efforts. And this will be going on all day. It's a horrible, horrible tragedy.
It is that. Mr. Mayor, can you tell me, is it a... Are people panicking down there, or
no,
are they
people.
leaving?
I was, I was there right in a building that got hit by the debris when the first tower collapsed. So I had to evacuate with people, and we were trapped in the building for a while. And we finally were able to get out, and we all walked north. And people, everything that I observed, even though it was hundreds, maybe in some cases thousands of people that were walking down the street, they were orderly, they were calm, they handled themselves really probably better than anybody had any right to expect.
And Mr. Mayor, we were told one of the problems, and Lord knows there are hundreds of problems, one of the problems was that a large number of police, fire, EMS personnel have also been injured in this. Can you shed any light on that?
I don't even want to contemplate what the number will be. But when the building collapsed, we had a lot of our police officers and firefighters in the building. And I know many of them because I saw some of them go in because I was there, and I'm praying for them. I just hope they're able to get out.
I think we all are.
The losses to our police department and fire department,
Sir,
I believe are going to be severe.
Do you believe that was there another set of explosions that caused the buildings to collapse, or was it the structural damage caused by the planes?
I don't know. I saw the first collapse and heard the second because I was in a building when the second took place. I think it was structural, but I cannot be sure.
And can you tell us how many hospitals in the city and perhaps outside the city too? All of them.
Right now, at last count, we were utilizing over 50. I think it'll be over 100 and that was as of a half hour ago.
And
we're utilizing all of the hospitals in New York City. We're utilizing the hospitals in Westchester and Rockland, Nassau County, northern New Jersey. And the main thing we have to urge people to do is to be calm and evacuate Lower Manhattan. And as far as the rest of the city is concerned, just to go about their lives as best as possible. I never thought I would see something like this happen. I got there after the first plane hit and before the second, and watching people jump from the top of the World Trade Center is an unbelievable sight.
Mr. Mayor, my colleague Jeff Greenfield is with us also. Jeff?
Mr. Mayor, in terms of, you've already said that you want Lower Manhattan evacuated, you want everybody else to go about their business. Are there specific instructions that you want to communicate right now to police, fire, everybody else?
Well, police and fire are there, and they're there in large numbers, and they are, first of all, trying to get into the rubble and the debris to save as many people as possible. We also have thousands of police officers in Lower Manhattan, and what we want people to do is to leave Lower Manhattan if they can on their own. Just to walk.
Sorry.
I just talked to Dick Grasso, who runs the stock exchange, and we have a lot of police there. They have 3,000 people there. We're going to walk them out. We're walking them east and then north, which is essentially the way I walked out. I was right below the World Trade Center when it collapsed, and then we walked up to Greenwich Village. People should walk out of Lower Manhattan, get above Canal Street, for safety reasons, but for a second reason. We need people out of there so we can get thousands of ambulances in and out over the course of the next couple hours. And the fewer people we have there, the more lives we're going to be able to save.
Mr. Mayor, are the subways operating?
The subways are operating outside of Manhattan.
Outside of Manhattan?
Outside of Manhattan, the subways are operating. A couple of delays here and there, but in all other 4 boroughs, the subways are operating. In Manhattan, there are significant delays. We thought we had the Lexington Avenue open, but it is not. I'm just checking right now. The Lexington Avenue is not open. The A train is working, and people will just have to test and see. The best thing to do right now is to walk. The safest and best thing to do is to walk to your destination, where schools have remained open, and we've worked with the Chancellor to try to make certain that the schools will remain open for as long as they have to help parents with the kids that would be coming home, you know, starting at around 1 or 2 o'clock.
Mr. Mayor, as you know better than anyone, and certainly New Yorkers know, but people around the country perhaps do not, this is Election Day here. What is the status of the election?
We canceled it. The governor and I decided about an hour and a half ago that it made no sense to have an election today. We needed all those police officers who were at the election site, and we need to focus on rescue. So we'll find another day. We'll find another day for the election. The governor and I made that decision about an hour and a half ago.
Mr. Mayor, you're a very focused guy in moments like this. Is it hard, given the magnitude of what's happened here and around the country, to focus on what you have to do and not just be angry?
It's very hard, and it's very hard because I know some of the people that are there. They're personal friends and close friends who are
In fact, Mr. Mayor,
who are in the building, and I haven't been able to find out if they're safe yet.
Your emergency command center, what some people have called a bunker, was located, was it not, in one of the World Trade Center buildings?
It was located close enough to it so that it was affected by it. It's not in one of the buildings, but it was located right in that area, as is City Hall, the police department, and all of them had to be evacuated. So that area of Manhattan, once I was in a building at the time that we were using as a command center, and we were trapped in the building for a while, for about 20 minutes, not able to get out different exits that were overcome with smoke and debris.
Mr. Mayor, just as a practical question, do hospitals need help? Do they need
Hospitals need all of the help they can get. We're getting a great deal of help from the surrounding areas. The governor has mobilized the state in order to make hospitals available to us outside of Manhattan. Any hospital personnel or emergency personnel that want to come in and volunteer, that'd be enormously helpful. But the best thing for us to do right now, and we're trying to coordinate, is to move people out of the city to hospitals in surrounding areas, which we're actually doing now. But so far, though, our hospital system is we're very fortunate to have a gigantic hospital system.
Do they have enough blood? Do they need blood? Do they need people to come in and help them out?
I'm sure they will. We're getting the National Guard to relieve our people by early to late this afternoon. They're being mobilized now. And 3 urban search and rescue teams are going to come to New York City to help us. And then anyone that wants to volunteer from surrounding areas, volunteer fire departments and others, we're working with them now to do that, to try to relieve our fire department.
It's a horrific day, Mr. Mayor.
There's no possible way to begin to describe it.
No, there is not.
To see what happened there is, of course, it makes you very, very angry. It's almost impossible to describe the level of anger that you have that somebody or someone would do something like this. And
Sure.
all of the good and wonderful people that were affected by this. There's no reason for this. There's no excuse for this. And there's something like this is just something you never thought you would live to see.
I couldn't agree more, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
New York's Mayor Rudy Giuliani on what was to be an election day. The mayor not up for re-election because of term limits, but the election has been postponed. Jeff, I just step back for a second.
Well, that's
you talk about anger, and we stand up here and we look at this, and we've all listened to what's been going on now as we've been on the air for 3 hours or so. And there was a woman that Richard Rock interviewed about a half hour ago who said what I suspect most Americans are feeling right now, and some would like to say and can't, how angry she was, how cowardly this all seemed to her. Quickly, we go back to Washington and Judy Woodruff. Judy?
Aaron, government sources telling CNN that President Bush, who had been in Florida for a 2-day trip and who broke that trip off this morning to head back to Washington, will now not return to Washington. Repeating, President Bush will not return to Washington. We do not know where the president will land or whether where his aircraft will go, Air Force One, but we just are passing along this information just as soon as we have it. Again, as we were talking to former NATO head Wesley Clark, General Wesley Clark, a little while ago, he pointed out that there are contingency plans that the military and the security people have for the president in a situation like this, and we're not going to do any speculating right here about where the president might be going. Joining us now on the telephone, and there is some information we want to share with you about aircraft in the sky that is, we're told, is safe right now. We're told by the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, they're telling us 50 aircraft are safely in the sky right now, all within about 50 miles of the destination. But in the meantime, we want to talk to Utah Republican Senator Orrin Hatch, who's joining us on the telephones. Senator Hatch, are you there?
Yes, I am.
And I know my colleague Wolf Blitzer, who's here with me in the studio in Washington, had also talked with you. Senator, you've been briefed by what authorities?
Well, I'm on both the Judiciary Committee and also the Intelligence Committee, and I've been briefed by the highest levels of the FBI and of the intelligence community. And I just have to say our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims of this terrible tragedy caused by a bunch of cowards. And there's no justification for what these cowards have done to purely innocent Americans, but I do have some information.
Senator Hatch, this is Wolf Blitzer. Tell us, I spoke with you earlier on the telephone, but tell us precisely what you are now being told in these high-level briefings about those who may, and repeat the word may, have been responsible for these attacks.
You're right. They've come to the conclusion that this looks like the signature of Osama bin Laden and that he may be the one behind this. I think most authorities agree that this is something that we doubt seriously if Iran, Iraq, or Libya would try and do, because they know of the massive response that we'd have to bring down on them. But there was no advance notice at all. They had no way of knowing that this was going to happen. It was carefully planned. And what it means is, it seems to me, that if that turns out to be true, we're going to have to revitalize Shah Massoud and the other people in Afghanistan who basically are fighting to get rid of this type of terrorism. And I think we're going to have to ask our friends in Pakistan to get, in turn, to be more cooperative than they have in the past. And then we'd have to work with our allies to have an international strategy to combat this type of international jihad against the West.
We're listening to Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah. We also have joining us on the telephone Senator John McCain from his home in Arizona. Senator McCain, I assume you've been talking to authorities as well.
Yes, Judy, and I'm on Capitol Hill in Washington.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yes. The situation is so serious that words don't describe it. I think that it's clear that the organization and magnitude of the attacks required more than a few people to perpetrate it, and it'll take some time to determine who they are and who supported these attacks, but I think we'll find them out, and they will suffer the full measure of our justice. This is obviously an act of war that's been committed on the United States of America.
What do you mean, obviously, an act of war, Senator McCain?
These attacks clearly constitute an act of war. The unwarranted, unprovoked attacks against innocent American citizens is clearly an act of war, and one that requires that kind of national response and international response.
Senator Orrin Hatch, I believe, is also still with us, Senator. And Senator Hatch, you mentioned the bin Laden organization. Former NATO head General Wesley Clark also said to us about an hour ago in an interview that he believes that it's only the bin Laden organization that is capable of carrying out attacks this coordinated and on this massive a scale. What are you basing your information on?
Well, keep in mind, there are nations that also could carry out these attacks, but I don't think would dare do that, knowing that their signature is going to be figured out. We're going to find out who did this, and we're going after the bastards. It's that simple. And I just have to say that both the FBI and our intelligence community believe that this is a bin Laden signature. And I believe it is. I was the first to point out bin Laden to the Clinton administration and said they're going to kill Americans, and we've got to get on top of that. And I think we're going to have to get on top of it, because this is a cowardly bunch who will stop at nothing to like you say, have a jihad or a war against the United States, and to do it in the most cowardly fashion.
But Senator McCain, I mean, there will be those who are saying the United States was taking all reasonable precautions. We had security at airports, metal detectors, and so forth and so on. How much more is going to have to be done to prevent something like these things from happening again?
Judy, I don't think our lifestyles will be the same for a long time since it was before these attacks, as far as use of transportation, particularly airports, are concerned. You know, there have been warnings about whether our security was good enough and whether the proper measures were being taken. I'm sure that'll all be reviewed. By the way, I have no information as to who caused this, and I hesitate to speculate, but I am confident that the President of the United States will lead us, and we will find out who has carried out these acts. And I think it's a little premature to make that determination until we have the hard facts, but I'm sure that we'll get them. The other aspect of this is that it may highlight over time the need for more human intelligence. We have very good technical intelligence capabilities, satellites, etc., but for many years we haven't had the kind of human intelligence which determines motivations before actions are taken.
I'm going to interrupt you, Senator McCain. These are the first pictures we have in. This is from Somerset County, Pennsylvania. This is where the United Airlines flight, I believe it is 176, went down. I'm sorry, I'm correcting. United Airlines 93. This was a Boeing 757 bound from Newark, New Jersey to San Francisco. It crashed in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, near the town of Shanksville, south of Pittsburgh. We're told about 80 miles outside of Pittsburgh in western Pennsylvania. It is not known how many passengers or crew were on board, although initial reports indicated no survivors. Again, these are the first pictures we have coming in from WTAJ there in the Pittsburgh area. United Airlines telling us earlier they had lost this flight, and they knew that it had crashed near Pittsburgh. There is a second United Airlines flight, the Boeing 767 Flight 175, bound from Boston to Los Angeles, has crashed. The airline's still telling us at this point that they do not know where. We don't have information on the number of people aboard. It is possible, but not confirmed, that this would have been the second plane to hit the World Trade Center. Now again, 2 United Airlines flights, and in addition to American Airlines flights, the Flight 11 from Boston to Los Angeles, this was a Boeing 767 with 81 passengers on board, 9 crew members, 2 pilots. This is believed to be one of the planes that crashed into the World Trade Center. All 4 of these planes that we're describing to you now, these flights, all headed to California. The second American Airlines Flight 77, this is a Boeing 757, left Dulles Airport near Washington on its way to Los Angeles. It had 58 passengers on board, 4 crew, 2 pilots. This plane unaccounted for. However, a commercial jet was seen crashing into the Pentagon a few hours ago, and it is believed that this could have been the one, but again, not confirmed. So 2 commercial airliners, American Airlines, 2 United Airlines. And I would just add at this point, because to be reassuring to some extent to those of you who are watching, we've been reporting that all flights within the United States have been canceled. There's been a complete hold down on all commercial travel. However, there were planes that were already in the air when these terrible incidents took place this morning. And as of a few moments ago, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, was reporting that there were still 50 aircraft in the skies. Now, some of those may have landed in the last few minutes, but that was the information as of a few minutes ago. All of them were said to be within 50 or so miles of their destination. Now, I'm getting new information in my ear. Now, reporting our congressional correspondent, Kate Snow, you're looking at a picture of the Pentagon Live. There's still smoke billowing out of our military command center in the United States.
As we look at these pictures, I'm going to turn it over right now to our congressional correspondent, Kate Snow, who has with her 2 members of Congress. Kate?
Judy, it's been a bit difficult to get in touch with members of Congress. As we've been reporting, the Capitol has been shut down. You can see it behind me here. You can see that everything's fine there, but it is in a state of lockdown. They've evacuated the Capitol. Joining me here on the roof of a church, I might add, we've managed to get up on the roof here to get a vantage point, is Congressman Curt Weldon, a Republican from Pennsylvania, around the Philadelphia area, not exactly where that video that we just saw, the other end of the state. And also Congressman Ed Schrock from Virginia Beach, from the state of Virginia, also a Republican. You both serve on the Armed Services Committee. In fact, you were in the middle of a briefing. You were about to talk to reporters about the need for more money for our military. Let me start with you, Congressman Weldon. You've been talking to me up here. You've been expressing outrage at all of this. You've been saying this is a failure of the U.S. intelligence system.
It's a failure of our intelligence system. I asked the Sergeant-at-Arms of the Capitol just 45 minutes ago in a meeting with 70 senators and House members, how much advance notice did you have? He said none. There was no intelligence. Our FBI and our CAA are there to intercept raw data. This is a massive operation, and it's a failure that was caused by a lack of resources and by a complacency that set in America over the past 10 years. A complacency that convinced all of us that with the demise of the Soviet Union, there were no more threats. It's a tragedy that it took the loss of thousands of lives to wake this country up and realize that our #1 responsibility is not education, and I'm a teacher, and it's not health care, I'm married to a nurse. It is, in fact, the security and the safety of the American people. And today, our government failed the American people.
Congressman Schrock, how much information have you as a member of Congress been able to get? I know that the members have been milling around here trying to get information. Have you been able to get information?
Not a whole lot. The most information we got was when we went to the U.S. Capitol Police headquarters, and they were piecing together what had happened and trying to feed us as they got that, but nothing substantive. It seems like there's no game plan in operation.
Do the two of you know why you were evacuated from the U.S. Capitol?
Absolutely. I talked to Bill Livingston, the Sergeant-at-Arms in the Capitol, and he said, Curt,